the roll.
Councilman Schwartz.
Here.
Councilman Belcher.
Here.
Councilman Goldberg.
Here.
Councilman Organ.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Katz.
Here.
Deputy Mayor G. I saw her come on. Mayor Pagan.
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by resolution number 299-2023, sending a copy to the newspapers officially designated for 2024 by way of resolution number 2-2024, filing a copy in the township clerk's office and posting on the municipal building bulletin board, and the mayor hereby directs that this statement be included in the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Good evening and welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting. Township Administration President at tonight's meeting are Dean Kaczynski, our Township Manager, Doug Roussillon, our Township Clerk, Michael Ash filling in for Scott Salmon, our Township Attorney, Kristen DeNorcia, our Deputy Township Clerk, Thomas Rowe, our Deputy Township Manager, and Ron Goodman, our volunteer cablecaster. For the public's information, we are currently holding a hybrid format meeting. We have people in person and on Zoom. If our Wi-Fi at the municipal building has an issue where the Zoom meeting drops, we will aim to retrieve the connection and recontinue the meeting. The next televised regular council meeting will take place on June 18th at 6:30 p.m., with the public portion of that meeting beginning at 8 p.m. There will be a Memorial Day ceremony on the municipal green at 11 a.m. on May 27th, and it will be followed by our annual Cedar Lane Memorial Day Street Fair. Council met in closed session to discuss the following earlier this evening: township manager interviews, a most referendum, our cell tower, the policy manual, legal issues and opinions regarding items on the open session agenda, litigation updates, and Oprah. Our first order of business tonight is presentations, and we have a young man who will be chief for the day. Mr. Kaczynski, will you be leading us on that, sir?
Sure. Just a brief comment on that. I know Chief McGurk could not make it tonight, but just a little bit about this program, chief for the day. And I don't believe the recipient is here, Ethan Robertson, today, but he will be on hand. So chief of the day, again, the Teaneck Police Department is going to participate in this program. And it's run with the Bergen County Sheriff's Office, and it will be on Thursday, June 13th. And the Chief for the Day program is run by Sheriff Puritan and participating agency police chiefs, and it offers children with chronic health conditions the opportunity to receive a unique law enforcement experience. So this year's Teaneck Police Department Chief for the Day is Ethan, who's going to be honored with a ceremony on June 13th at both police headquarters and the Bergen County Courthouse in the morning, and then a celebration during lunch in the afternoon. So council is certainly welcome to participate, as well as the public, when Ethan makes his way to the Teaneck Police Department on Thursday, June 13th. So I will forward this certificate or proclamation to Chief McGurk, and we will present it to Ethan on June 13th.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and thank you, Ethan, and congratulations to Ethan. Next order of business is a certificate of recognition for Hilda Ventimiglia.
Yeah, so I'm going to come down for that. Or two. I've held you for many years. You know. Come on up, Lenny. So come on up. Come up, yeah, come on up. You. Okay, so our next recipient for recognition is someone I've known for many, many years, along with her husband. I went to high school with Lenny. And just a little bit about Hilda Ventimiglia. She's been a Teaneck resident since 1974 and a proud graduate of Teaneck High School's 50th class. I'm correct? And I'm not sure if you wanted me to say that or not, but so, you know, this is a great accomplishment that Hilda's receiving tonight. And what we have is a certificate of recognition from the town council. But a little bit before I get into that, Hilda runs the Holy Name Medical Center Mobile Education Lab, and that brings health information to the community and encourages individuals to take simple steps to live healthier lives. And the MEL also offers blood tests, flu shots, educational information on how to stop the spread of COVID-19, blood pressure screenings, diabetes counseling, and much more. They also sponsor many programs for blood pressure control, weight loss and diabetes management, and many other health-related issues. I know the Mel is here in the township several times a year. You may see their mobile unit parked outside. It's open to the public. We try to advertise it when we can. But Hilda received an incredible recognition, and just a little bit of a bio for Hilda. She's an MSN RN and has over 2 decades of experience as a registered nurse. And just something quickly on a personal note, my family has gone through some recent health issues, and I can tell you with my folks in the hospital, nurses do God's work, and you really don't appreciate everything they do until you're in that situation, what they have to put up with, what they have to deal with day in and day out, and they truly are the doctors that do the care day in and day out. So I am very appreciative of what nurses do, and my sister's a retired nurse, but you really have a much better appreciation for what the nurses do day in and day out. So in 1998, Ms. Ventimiglia left a corporate career, 15 years, and pursued the path of nursing. She earned her RN degree from Holy Name Sister Claire Tynan School of Nursing, where she was elected class president and was inducted to the National League of Nursing for Leadership. She earned her BSN and MSN degrees from Felician University. Hilda began her career as an oncology nurse and later expanded her specialty areas to cardiology, healthcare, home care, clinical education, and public health. In her current role at Holy Name Medical Center as the Director of Community Health, her responsibilities include providing quality health education and screening programs for patients in diverse communities, where her fluency in English, Spanish, and Italian allow her to foster a strong connection with her patients. She is a steering committee member for the Community Health Improvement Partnership of Bergen County, a collaborative of Bergen County Hospitals and the Public Health Department. As a representative of Holy Name Medical Center, Ms. Ventimiglia provides guidance and insight when the groups collaborate to inform the community health needs assessment. The assessment, conducted every 3 years, evaluates the health needs of individuals living within the service area. Ms. Ventimiglia and her team use this information to develop strategies and implement programs that address many of the community's demands and their health concerns. She's also affiliated with numerous academic and professional organizations, including Sigma Theta Tau International Nursing Honor Society, American Nurses Association, the Preventive Cardiovascular Nurses Association, New Jersey Nurses Association, and Holy Name's Professional Practice Council. Ms. Ventimiglia often serves as a clinical preceptor for William Patterson University's Department of Nursing and is frequently sought after to present for seminars and workshops on issues concerning health and wellness. Not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask you just to explain the award that you recently received.
So, good evening, everybody. For the New Jersey Nurses Association, they usually have an award for nursing excellence, and there were 19 people honored this year for the state of New Jersey, and I humbly happen to be one of them. It's called the Diva Nursing Award, Diva and Don Nursing Award, for people who excel in nursing and promote the nursing career to the best of their ability.
So on behalf of council, we have a certificate of recognition to Hilda Ventimiglia. The Teaneck Township Council and Manager thanks you for your service and dedication to our residents through the Holy Name Medical Center Community Health Program. We also congratulate you on being recognized by the New Jersey State Nursing Association for all of your exemplary work in Teaneck and beyond, and this is signed by all the members of council and myself. Again, I am truly thankful for the work you do, the other nurses do. I'm indebted to them for the rest of my life for certain things that they've helped my family out with. And I thank you, I congratulate you, and again, the nurses really do God's work, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes. Hilda, Ms. Organ?
Just wanted to thank you for all the hours that you've put in helping people. What Dean said, when our families are sick and we need help, it's nurses who help us. But it's also so wonderful to see somebody with the skills and compassion of a nurse take that and use it to really broaden public health for us and bring everything to a higher level. So we really do appreciate you.
Mr. Mayor?
Wait, Hilda, we have a couple more people that want to say something. Councilwoman Belcher?
Yeah, I just want to say, Hilda, thank you. Thank you so much for what you do. We all appreciate nurses. I mean, anyone that goes in and has, children and goes in the hospital for any reason, nurses are your best friend. They become your sisters, and I so appreciate what you're doing. And on another level, that you teach, that you're actually instructing, so you're committed to the profession by not only serving but also teaching others. So thank you for all that you do.
Wait, Hilda, we got a couple more. Councilwoman Goldberg.
Hi. I just wanted to also say thank you. It's nursing is such a important profession. I have a nurse in my family, and I've unfortunately spent a lot of times with nurses lately. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, no.
Mr. Mayor?
Mark, do you want to say anything?
I mean, Dean's kiss to her says it all. Obviously, you're very important and did a great job, and we love you. Thank you very much.
Hilda, first and foremost, congratulations on receiving your award. Nurses help save lives, and I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done for the township and everybody in the township. I remember during the pandemic, you helped us organize a COVID-19 bilingual forum so that we can help convince people to get the vaccine shots. So on behalf of the 42,000 residents of Coltinic Home, thank you so very much, and congratulations. We appreciate you so much.
Mr. Mayor? Hello,
Ellie
Mr. Mayor?
Katz, are you raising your
Yes.
hand, Deputy Mayor Katz?
Yes, so I was in the hospital during Nurses Week, and one of my first goals is to extend that to Nurses Month, because I do not understand how any human being can care so much and give so much to people that they don't know and they don't love. And I have utmost respect. I think Dean said it the best for what the nurses do. So congratulations, and thank you for letting us recognize you tonight.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Katz, and thank you so much, Hilda. We appreciate you. Okay, moving on to our next order of business, which is work session items miscellaneous. Does anyone on council have anything under miscellaneous? Anyone? No? Next order of business is old business. Does anyone have anything under old business? No, moving along. Our next order of business is new business. Does anyone have anything under new business? Continuing to move along, our next order of business is communications, and we have the proposed resolution to designate May as ALS month. I think this is you, correct, Ms. Morgan?
Did anybody else get the email from Lori Foreman Jacoby about ALS month? So May is a very busy month. We have Nurses Month, Nurses Week, and Teachers Week, and Police Officers Week, and National EMS Week. And I felt it was very important to include this. About 10 years ago, as she says in her letter, we all did the Ice Bucket Challenge and raised money for ALS, but we haven't heard a lot about it. It's Lou Gehrig's disease. Every 90 minutes, someone is diagnosed with ALS and someone passes away from it. Patients who are diagnosed only survive 2 to 5 years on average. There is no cure, and people who have served in the military are more likely to develop ALS. So I would love to move this resolution to the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion.
That was a first from Councilwoman Organ and a second from Mayor Pagan for the resolution. Language included in the packet: Councilman Schwartz, Councilwoman Belcher, Councilwoman Goldberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor G,
Yes.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
It is added to consent agenda as resolution number, please hold, apologies, 170-2024.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Does anyone have anything else under communications? No, moving along. Next order of business, committee reports by council
Okay.
liaisons. Ms. Belcher. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
The floor is yours, ma'am.
The recognizing Asian American.
Yeah, that's,
Okay, okay, no problem. Okay.
does anyone have anything though for committee reports? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Belcher.
Yeah, I just wanted to read in, we had an affordable housing subcommittee meeting. I just wanted to recognize a couple key points because affordable housing legislation, the new legislation is really afoot, and that we we have reviewed as a subcommittee to the actual dates of the requirements that each municipality is mandated to address. We've actually met specifically with our CFO and also our affordable housing czar, which is Frank Piazza. And there's essentially the next few dates, or the first few dates, are specific to accounting, to reporting, and reporting to DCA. And so essentially, we are in good position as a township in terms of reporting the data, because it's mostly like developers' fees and so forth. So our CFO has indicated that we're definitely able for the June 18th date to meet that requirement, and also for the September 16th date to meet the requirement in terms of the all residential development fees to be reported to DCA. We're also working with Frank Piazza to come up with the actual demographics, or the numbers as it pertains to our affordable housing numbers, where we drill down to housing type, affordability levels, the number of bedrooms, and so forth. This here again is just data that we're giving to the Department of Community Affairs, DCA. By October 20th, we have a mandate by then that we would receive from DCA an accounting from them, or determination from them, what is our township numbers? What is our township's requirements for the fourth round of affordable housing? We are expected to challenge that, and how we challenge that is data that we receive. We actually extract from the master plan that has to do with vacant land. And so the pushback is that every town's going through this. Every town is going to get a determination from DCA. We just want to make sure that it's reflective of what we are as a township, our goals that we've established in our master plan, and so forth. So I just want the community to know, as well as my colleagues, that we have this under control. Our subject matter experts are very engaged in the process and what's required. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Mr. Schwartz.
Yes, Cedar Lane had their monthly meeting. Keep in mind that this coming Monday will be their Memorial Day. First, the ceremony, which I'm sure Mr. Manager will talk about, but then we'll have the Cedar Lane Street Fair, which starts a little bit later this year. I believe we pushed it to 12:30 so people can go to both events. Additionally, we have a sub-zoning committee this coming Friday, so I'll report on that thereafter. And lastly, our budget committee, we will not be passing the budget for a little while as we keep on working to reduce the potential increase. Tonight on the resolutions, we'll have a council, as reported last time, a cell phone tower consultant being hired, so we could work on selling the cell phone tower and utilizing those funds to reduce the budget, which will be passed a little bit later on this summer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Ms. Organ.
So the library was going to partner with Leonia during construction. We are now going to partner with New Milford. There'll be more information coming with that. The renderings for the construction are beautiful. I don't have them with me, but they are probably in the library. And there's a meeting scheduled on June 23rd, Sunday at 2:00 with the architect for anybody who's interested in seeing what will be done. It will be worth the wait once the construction is completed. Municipal Alliance Against Substance Abuse, we have an ordinance tonight that we're introducing to lower the number of vape shops that will be allowed, the licenses that will be given out in the township. Right now, we have more than 10. Those will be grandfathered in, but if this passes, we will limit the number of vape shops or those selling vape products to 10. And finally, Patriotic Observance Advisory Board. I hope everybody will join us Monday on the Municipal Green at 11:00 as we honor those who have fallen and meet with our veterans there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Organ. Deputy Mayor
Mr.
G,
Mayor?
do I see your hand up?
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that you, Ellie?
Yeah.
Ellie can go
Deputy Mayor
first.
Katz. Sorry, go ahead, sir.
Oh, no. I just had a question for Councilmember Morgan. Do we have to limit it to 10, or could we put grandfather in the 10 and limit it to 8 or 7? So if one or two close, they can't reopen.
So right now, the number is well above 10. So we've taken 10 for right now, and we'll see what happens. Seems like they were popping up everywhere. So we're reining things in.
Okay. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor G, is your hand up, ma'am? Deputy Mayor G?
Sorry about that. Yes. Multitask. I'm in transit, so sorry to hard to turn off and on. But okay, two committee reports. First, the Senior Citizens Advisory Board met. They had some concerns they wanted to share with council. First, there were some concerns about street safety, and specifically, they'd like to see a uniform 25-mile-per-hour speed limit across town. They were cognizant of the fact that not all of some of the roads are county roads, and so to the extent that we could advocate for 25 miles per hour, they would like to see that. There were questions about Cedar Lane double parking. Is there a way to get some more visibility there in terms of having more police officers either be visible or circle that area to ensure that there isn't double parking? And then they'd like to see some police training about driving possible. Let's see what else came up. Oh yeah, they'd like to see additional lighting in the northeast corner of Voti Park where that construction is currently happening. And there was a suggestion for the outdoor gyms to cover them at all of the parks to allow for use during inclement weather, and also to protect the equipment from wear and tear, from the weather, from sun, etc. There was also a specific concern about trees on Beveridge Street going north by Teaneck Road. It's blocking traffic and people can't see oncoming traffic. And then finally, just in general, there were concerns about township trees not being trimmed regularly. So that was Senior Citizens Advisory Board. Second, the Advisory Board and Community Relations met. And they first, sorry, I'm just pulling up the notes on that one. They discussed possible dates for empathy training in either August or September. They're really eager to get that going. There was a discussion about the development of a calendar with suggested religious and cultural observances. We've been talking about this for a while. We talked about logistics for being present at the 4th of July parade, and
Are you there, Deputy Mayor?
and reservations are still being taken for both adults and youth. So, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, you cut
Hello?
out for just a split second. My bad.
Oh, sorry about that. So yes, the Matthew Feldman Award nominations are still being taken for both the adult and youth category. So please submit all nominations to our ABCR chair, Cheryl Hall at chall, that's CHALL at tnecnj.gov. And then wanted to announce that TNEC's second annual Race Amity Day is taking place on Sunday, June 9th from 1:30 to 3 p.m. It will be at Voti Park Bandshell. And then after that, it will be followed by the TNEC potluck picnic in support of TNEC Public Schools. So it'll be a great opportunity for folks to get to know the neighbors, enjoy some music, food, and fellowship. I hope many of our town residents will attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Does anyone else on council have any committee reports?
I do. Something I want to talk about.
Another committee report?
Just to add to what I was just mentioning.
Oh,
Okay, about.
go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that this was something that we began to think about talking about in closed session, but we all agree that it has to be brought out into open session, and that is the whole emphasis on code enforcement. As a township, we're looking to add, as we grow, into different ordinances that speak to different things, from vape shops to chicken ordinances and so forth. So one of the things that I've reached out to our township attorney to look into is what would it take to do a ordinance for a code enforcement representative that oversees all of the ordinances to ensure that we're in compliance. So essentially, he's doing an analysis of other towns that are similar to ours, what that would mean in terms of either a part-time or full-time employee that would be responsible for code enforcement. So I just wanted to put this out here so that everyone is aware that we are looking at exploring what a code enforcement would mean for our township to ensure our health and our safety, of course, but also our quality of life as we grow as a township. So there's more to come as it pertains to code enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Ms. Organ.
I think we need 4 nodding heads to move ahead with that. I don't think it's something the attorney can just present or one council person. And I know we've had discussion before, but while I understand why you're asking for it, I have a big problem with a code enforcement officer in town. So I don't know if that's something you want to discuss now, but usually when we bring this up, it's 4 nodding heads moves it forward.
I remember, if I could respond to that, and when it comes to a analysis of asking our township attorney to look into what it would mean, we're not needing to vote on this as if we're moving forward with it, but we are in a need of at least knowing what we should be aware of, what we should be prepared for, what are other towns similar to ours doing. And that's all our attorney is doing. So I don't
No
think we necessarily need
ordinance.
nodding heads for that.
No ordinance.
Ms. Goldberg.
I just have a question. So what is the ask of the attorney? Because I thought, wait, I'm not clear what the ask is, what we're exploring.
The ask of the attorney is to come back to see what other townships have that we can potentially look at from a policy perspective as it pertains to code enforcement. We're growing as a township. We're adding ordinances left and right. So we need enforcement. We need a comprehensive code enforcement policy. So essentially, what he's tasked with doing is looking at policy and procedure and how it would look for our township.
Ms. G, is that your hand up I see?
Sorry, that's an old hand, but I'll
Okay.
chime in since you called on me. So I think it would be helpful if we also talk to our health officer, because I think her office is probably overwhelmed with trying to manage issues that a code enforcement officer might be able to help out with. So in terms of doing our due diligence, I think it would be helpful also to hear from her to see what this new role might be able to do in terms of supporting or sharing the burden of that work.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Is there anyone else that want to comment on this? Ms.
Yeah.
Goldberg.
I'm sorry, I just have it. So I just want to understand. So the ask is to have him look at, or this person in theory would be looking at the code, not necessarily residents' properties, like, because that's what I was thinking, but then that's not what you said. So I just want to understand.
No. What a code enforcement officer does is enforce the code, enforce ordinances. So essentially, what we're looking at is for our attorney to come back to us with a potential policy and that we can look at potentially to when it comes to adopting and hiring a code enforcement officer. And I do agree that what Deputy Mayor is saying is that it certainly would help to get some insight from a health official, because there is a default to our health officials when it comes to managing the code from a health perspective. But keep in mind, there is also the building department. I mean, the building department has certainly a voice in this. So this is an exploratory opportunity for us to engage our attorney to find out what is the best practice for us moving forward as it pertains to code enforcement.
Thank
Mr.
you, Ms.
Mayor.
Belcher. Yes, Deputy Mayor Katz.
I'm absolutely against this on many reasons. First of all, when Teaneck residents are facing a 7% increase just on the municipal budget, not to mention the fact that the Board of Ed is going to be giving an increase and the county is going to be giving an increase, and many residents in Teaneck got their increase during the revaluation. Adding additional expenses is not something I'm looking to do, and adding additional burden and hardship to our residents that now are going to be fighting against each other and calling a harassment officer on each other when the neighbor's got a broken window or a broken doorknob or a broken whatever it is, just to cause additional strife, is not something that I want to do. And when residents are having a hardship, listen, I love the fact that Teaneck has one of the highest amount of permits pulled for our building department, because what that says is And obviously, there's residents that do work without permits, but what it says is that Teaneck residents take pride in their properties. But taking pride in their properties and keeping up to make sure that you got the most perfect property are two different things. And to me, it just turns into a harassment situation, and people that are unable to fix the little shingle on their roof that might have twisted a little bit during the storm, and now has the harassment officer coming after them is not something I'm looking to do. And I will tell you this, every single month, I will send a letter to every single resident that gets an harassment letter of all the council members and their phone numbers of who voted for this. Because if they feel comfortable sitting here and trying to hire an harassment officer, they should feel comfortable fielding the phone calls from the residents.
Yes, Miss Belcher, Miss Organ, then I'd really like to move on
Okay,
if possible.
so I would respond to that by saying that we are growing as a township. We are looking at not only a chicken ordinance, but an ADU ordinance. We have a number of vape shops where we've had some extraordinary things happen that in terms of us trying to manage. I think this is not policing necessarily residents only. This is looking at our stores, looking at our storefronts, looking at the condition of our retail spaces. This is looking at a host of different things. So it's not policing residents. I would beg to differ with you, Deputy Mayor. I believe that this is an overall enforcement of ordinances, not just for burdened by the residents, but also by businesses as well.
Listen, I'm not
Miss
looking to harass
Organ.
anybody.
I think the most vulnerable among us are going to be the most affected by an ordinance like this. My thought has always been that it will turn pit neighbor against neighbor. So instead of knocking on your neighbor's door, you're now going to pick up the phone and call somebody and send them to your neighbor to get them in trouble. I understand the sentiment. I know that the health department is busy, but they're prepared to take on a chicken ordinance. I know the building department is busy, but they're prepared to take on ADUs. This is their job. I know the police department is busy, but they're handling the vape shops stellarly. I understand the reason. I understand the logic. I think it's going to affect the person who got sick, who can't mow their lawn, the single mother who gets home from work late and can't shovel. These are the things that are going to be reported at the end of the day. And this is not going to be beneficial for our town. The leadership of our town is strong. Our department heads are strong, and they're handling what they're doing. But to give a neighbor a way to get another neighbor that they don't like into trouble is the last thing a township like this needs.
Thank you, Miss Organ. We're going to move on to the next order of business, which is
Sorry, Mr.
council
Mayor, I
listed-
had my hand up.
Oh, sorry. Deputy Mayor G, sorry, go ahead.
Really quickly, I just wanted to add, and Ellie, I certainly understand where you're coming from and understand the concerns about we don't want this to turn into harassment. But I just wanted to add that the reporting, neighbors reporting on each other is already happening. I don't think it would, I think what Denise is proposing is how do we address what's already happening in a way that's more efficient and effective, and to lower the burden on the existing infrastructure that we have. Because as we introduce new things like the chicken ordinance and et cetera, there may be more complaining, not because there's a new code enforcement officer, but just because we're growing as a township and there are more codes to enforce in general. So I guess what I would say we should sort of consider is, does hiring a code enforcement officer, do we really truly believe that will create more complaints, or are there really just already complaints that are not being handled in a way that's efficient just because there isn't enough support to handle them? So I just think we should be just consider that going forward.
Thank you, Miss G. Miss Goldberg, and then hopefully we can move on to the next
Sorry.
order of business.
I just wanted to say two things. So I think all of our department heads are responsible and enforcing the codes within their purview in the code. And yes, I agree with Deputy Mayor G that neighbors are already calling neighbors, but having someone drive around looking for violations is just going to hurt the poorest of the poor in our town. And as we heard from the last PPRB meeting, there are some real issues in this town regarding poverty and food insecurity that we need to address. And putting that burden on people that are already suffering is not right. I think as a community, we need to look at how we can help our neighbors instead of reporting them and giving more fines with a ordinance.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. The next order of business is council listed items, and first up is a proposed resolution recognizing May as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Councilwoman Belcher.
Okay, so the month of May, we simply want to recognize as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And just recognizing, I believe we did this, Doug, you kind of helped me with this in terms of coming up with, I think, something that really reflects our sentiment. So whereas the people of the U.S. and the Township of Teaneck joined together each May to pay tribute to the contributions of generations of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders who may have enriched the history of the U.S. And whereas the history of the Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the U.S. is tied to a very important story of the United States, and whereas the Asian American and Pacific Islander community is inherently diverse population and is composed of more than 45 distinct ethnicities and more than 100 language dialects. And the last two reads, whereas celebrating Asian Pacific American Heritage Month provides the people of Teaneck and of the U.S. with an opportunity to recognize the achievements, contributions, and history of, and to understand the challenges faced by Asian Americans. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Teaneck, and the Township recognizes that this May as AAPI Month and highlights the significance that Asian Pacific American Heritage Month is as an important time to celebrate the significant contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the history of the U.S., and recognizes that Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders communities enhance the rich diversity and strength of the U.S. The Township Council encourages all residents to join the community in this recognition.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Do you want to make a motion to add that to the consent agenda?
I make a motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I make a motion, and thanks for your second.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you, Mayor. That was a first from Councilwoman Belcher and a second from Mayor Pagan on this proposed resolution. Language in the packet, Councilman Schwartz.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Belcher.
Yes.
Councilwoman Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilwoman Oregon.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor G.
Yes.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
Resolution 171-2024 added to the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And next up is the Township Manager's Report. Mr. Kaczynski, I still can't believe we only have you for one
Yes,
more
one
meeting
more.
after this.
Yep.
We're going to miss you. We love
Thank
you.
Thank you.
The
Thank you.
floor is yours, sir.
All right, go over some announcements first. We recently had the new vehicle dedication. We added 16 new vehicles to the DPW and police fleet. Thank you to the public that came out during the dedication ceremony. As Councilman Mark Schwartz said, Memorial Day ceremony starts at 11 a.m. on the Municipal Green. That's going to be followed by the Cedar Lane Street Fair, which begins at 12:30. The keynote speaker for Memorial Day is Cindy Jebb. She's a retired Army Brigadier General and also the president of Ramapo College. She will be the keynote speaker on the Municipal Green at 11 o'clock on Memorial Day. And again, that's followed by the Cedar Lane Street Fair. And this year they will be honoring my deputy manager, Tom Rowe, who also will be departing us soon. We're going to be posting the Hometown Hero banners, and these are military banners. You may see them in other municipalities. Hopefully we'll have all of them up before Memorial Day, and they'll be posted on our various areas of town from May until November, and it honors our Teaneck residents who are military veterans. Splash Pad opens on the weekend starting May 25th, and it will be open for Memorial Day as well. So this weekend it does open Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And then beginning June 15th, the Splash Pad and the Voti Park Pool are open full-time 7 days a week. The 4th of July parade is coming up. That begins at 9:30. The parade route is along Queen Anne Road, and that's going to be followed by our 34th annual community celebration at Voti Park. And we have the Juneteenth silent walk that starts at 8 a.m. at the Teaneck FDU campus at the MLK Monument, and that will go from River Road to Commander Walk. Again, that's Juneteenth. Silent walk 8 a.m. The Pride Parade, the flag raising is on June 2nd at 1:30. That takes place at Voti Park Sportsplex, and that will be followed by a family fun day. As we do every year, we reach out to Bergen County Mosquito Control. They're going to treat various areas in Voti Park. We have a lot of functions in the park, so we want to make sure everything is safe there. We'll keep everyone posted when the treatments begin. And we were also notified by Teterboro Airport that they're going to be hosting actually 3 U.S. Navy SH-60 Seahawk helicopters, and they're going to be taking part in Fleet Week this week and over the weekend and on Monday. So if you do see these large helicopters flying in Teaneck, they're going to be using the flight path that the planes and helicopters use, and the flight path is part of Teaneck. So don't be alarmed if you do see them. And that's yesterday, and that continues through May 27th. Some of the project updates. I know Ms. Baker was here the last meeting. We reached out to NJDOT about the intersection again at Alfred and Decatur. As everyone recalls, we made some, DOT did some improvements based on our recommendations. However, there was an issue with the stop sign. They created a work order, and they're going to relocate the stop sign just north of the utility pole, and it'll also add the word stop to the pavement. So hopefully that will help as well. The police department will continue to do enforcement. They did education there. Now they're going to be doing enforcement for violators. I also sent a letter to the County of Bergen asking them to consider increasing the hourly rate of compensation for snow removal. Right now it's at $115. So I'm waiting to hear back from the County of Bergen. Teaneck Southern Little League, the update on that project. I spoke to the contractor today. They're on schedule, and they will have the baseball field playable and ready to go by June 1st. The only item that may not be available, Mayor, by June 1st is the scoreboard. It should be delivered sometime that week. So once we get it, it will be installed, but the field turf is being delivered tomorrow, but the field should be up and running as promised by June 1st. Construction on the new Andreas Park pickleball courts is going to be awarded this evening. We're going to add 4 new, brand new individual courts. It's going to be resurfaced. It's going to be a nice facility once it's done. Should take about a month to complete. We have a pre-construction meeting set up, and that's for the new lighting at the Voti Park tennis courts. That may help out with some of the deficiencies in the north end of Voti Park. We'll see how that goes. If there's a need to increase lighting in that northern end of Voti Park, we will do so. The contractor is currently working on the new foundation for the shade and shelter. That's just north of the splash pad. That project should be done soon. We're also working with DEP Green Acres on compensation for the minor diversion that we have to do for the detention tank at Sagamore Park. So we have to make a decision. Are we giving DEP Green Acres cash, or are we giving them property, which again, I just have a problem with that. The grant procedure was completed for the bioswales along Bell Avenue. Engineering is moving forward with the design and the bid proposal. So that's moving along nicely. The Palisade Avenue pedestrian bridge plan is under design. We also need to secure a permit, Mayor, from CSX for us to do this work. So we anticipate the essential work will begin on this project this summer. That will allow the bridge to open. Again, this is essential work only. We have the monies for that. We're going to need the budget for the additional permanent bridge repairs in 2025. So the monies that we have now will allow us to open the bridge with the essential repairs. The 2023 roadway resurfacing project is going to also be awarded this evening. We have 17 streets and some alternates we will do. We'll post the list on the website. The engineer will post the list on the website tomorrow. There was also another pre-con meeting today. We're going to be paving Schoonmaker, Nelden, Hurleman Road, and Argonne Court very shortly. These projects are funded through the County Development Block Grant Program. Engineering is also working on the new design plan for the tennis courts at Argonne Park. There'll be a new facility there that's covered by a grant and capital as well. Engineering is also working on the Phelps Park splash pad. And this is going to be a scaled down version of what's currently at Voti Park. And this is funded through matching grants. This project, though, will likely start in the fall or early spring for a completion date the summer of 2025. Some of our EMS, police, and fire are participating in a CSX responder incident training. There's an actual training rail car that's located in Little Ferry that they're going to be training on very shortly. If anyone passed Beverly Road Municipal Lot, the eastern lot was milled. It's going to be paved tomorrow, and then it will be striped. This will allow the farmers market to move from the western end of Beverly parking lot to the newer end that will be milled, or that's already milled, will be paved tomorrow and striped. So it'll be a nice facility when it's done for them. DPW continues to perform improvements on Cedar Lane. That includes the power washing, tree straightening, and garbage collection. We do have a seasonal assigned to Cedar Lane to make sure everything is neat and clean. With the grant money, our DPW and our health department, they're making arrangements for the eradication of these spotted lantern flies. There's going to be several different methods used, including the foliar spray method and injection. In the meantime, if you see them, we tell people just to stomp them out. Also, you'll see on the agenda tonight, we're going to be settling 4 collective bargaining agreements. One will settle until the end of 2028, and the other 3 will settle until the end of 2030. This puts all of our collective bargaining units settled for many years. There's a total of 8. The remaining 4 end the end of 26, but all the others either the end of 28 or the end of 2030. So we're in good shape with that. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Our next order of business is the Township Attorney's Report. Mr. Ash?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, I'm just going to summarize a couple of the ordinances that we have on for introduction and adoption. There's been mention of some of these, so I'm just going to quickly recap. Tonight for adoption is ordinance number 7/2024. This is the cannabis ordinance, which primarily delineates an application process for those wishing to obtain local licenses. Applicants are required to fill out a standard form and provide evidence of their lease or ownership of an appropriate property, business plans, and other requirements. After the township receives these documents, the council will evaluate the applications and issue a resolution of support or a rejection of the approval. This was drafted by our cannabis counsel, Ron Mondello, and is in use in many other municipalities. Scheduled for introduction tonight, ordinance number 13/2024. This is the cell tower ordinance, which authorizes the township to put out an RFP to sell the cell tower by the Rhoda Center. We are required by state statute to do this through an ordinance that sets out the terms of what the sale would look like and includes requirements that we would impose on any prospective buyer. For example, it would require the buyer to allow the township to place at no cost to the township, municipal, and emergency antennas and equipment. Next, for introduction, ordinance number 11/2024. This is the chickens ordinance, which is an ordinance that has been discussed for a very long time. It allows for up to 6 chicken hens to be kept on a single family residential property in chicken coops or runs. Applicants have to obtain biennial permits and complete an application that requires certain information about how many chickens they intend to keep and where, as well as maintenance plans, among other things. Applicants are required to building the coops and runs no less than 25 feet from any dwelling or occupied structure, as well as comply with all other setback requirements. There are other specifications for the chicken coops and runs, like ventilation, space per chicken, adequate flooring, and metal containers for feed. Finally, for introduction, ordinance number 12/2024. This is the retail electronic smoking or vaping establishment ordinance, which limits the number of vape shops to 10 establishments. This was recommended by our health officer. Currently, there is no limit, and there are approximately 15 vape shops in the township. The existing vape shops would be grandfathered as license holders, even though we're over the limit currently in this ordinance. As the licenses expire or are not renewed, the license would disappear. It would not be available for new applicants until we get back under the 10 license limit threshold in the proposed ordinance.
Mr. Attorney, I have
Thank
a
you, Mr.
quick
Ash. Go
question.
ahead.
I know we have a handicap parking ordinance for tonight. I know we've kind of discussed this as a whole, but is there a sunset clause in here? So if somebody moves and they don't need it anymore, do we have to redo the ordinance? Like, do we know? Okay. Okay.
I'd have to review your code to see what the application process is.
No, they go in the code. I just don't know if we can sunset it in general. I think it's okay, so we'll review it.
Yeah, and sometimes a space is actually assigned to a particular license plate number or vehicle, so it depends how that is handled, which is something that the town attorney can look into.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Ms. Belcher.
Mr. Attorney, you didn't mention ordinance number 45, 2023? The ADU? The ADU ordinance, you didn't mention that one. Ordinance number 45, 2023?
Yes, also on for adoption tonight is 45, 2023, amending township code for the township of Teaneck to enact a new section establishing and regulating accessory dwelling unit.
Thank you, Mr. Ash. Our next order of business is formal meeting items, and under that is the public hearing and adoption of ordinances. Mr. Clerk, can you please read the title of the 3 ordinances into the record?
Yes, sir. As eloquently stated just before me by Township Attorney Michael Ash, we have 3 ordinances up for second reading, council, this evening. First up, ordinance number 45-2023, amending the township code for the township of Teaneck to enact a new section establishing and regulating accessory dwelling units, ADUs. We have ordinance number 7-2024, amending ordinance number 57-2021, permitting cannabis establishments as a conditional use within the light industry district in the township. Last but not least, council, we have ordinance 9-2024, amending section 36-11.2 of chapter 36 of Township Code for Township of Teaneck, adding restricted on-street parking space for handicap at 46 Warner Place.
Sir,
Mr. Clerk,
Mr.
before we open up the public hearing, does anyone on council want to say anything?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I
Yes,
want to
yes.
make a motion to table 45, 2023 for 60 days pending master plan.
You said for 60 days?
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I have a, I'd like
Ms.
to pull.
Belcher, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to pull 7/2023. I'd like to pull that for 60 days and preparation for master plan.
Mr. Attorney, we had a first and a second to
think-
table a motion,
We have to do that.
to table an
first.
ordinance.
And then you can. No, take your time, Mr. Clerk. Take your time.
Councilwoman Goldberg, would that be for July 16th or August 20th? Did you say 60 days?
60 days.
Okay. And that was a first from Councilwoman Goldberg. Was that a second from Councilwoman Oregon to table for 60 days, ordinance 45-2023, Councilman Schwartz?
Yeah, and we can comment afterwards before the hearing, correct? Yeah, yes on the poll, yes on the table.
That's what you.
Councilwoman Belcher,
No on the table.
Councilwoman Goldberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Oregon,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor G,
No.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes, because I really want to see this passed, even if it takes another 60 days.
So that's going to be the August meeting, council.
Ms. Belcher, I think we're making a motion about a
Yeah,
different
I would like
ordinance.
I'd like to make a similar motion for 7/2023, the cannabis ordinance, to table that for 60 days in preparation for the master plan.
So that's for ordinance 7. Just confirming we did table 45-2023, and now we have a first from Councilwoman Belcher to table 60 days again, which is going to be August 20th that we would see it again. There was a first from Councilwoman Belcher. I need a second.
Second.
That's a second from Deputy.
Can I ask a question on the motion?
Is that you, Mr. Katz?
Yeah, Mayor,
ahead, sir.
Can you just, this ordinance doesn't change any of the locations where it's permitted, it's just changing some of the fees and other issues, correct?
Correct. There's no
Okay.
zoning change whatsoever.
Got it. Okay.
Mr. Clerk, there's a first and a second to table it.
Councilman Schwartz,
No.
Councilwoman Belcher.
Yes.
Councilwoman Goldberg,
No.
Councilwoman Organ,
No.
Deputy Mayor Katz,
No.
Deputy Mayor G,
Yes.
Mayor Pagan.
No. Did
Not-
anyone on council want to comment before we open up the public hearing?
Yes. Oh, I can defer. Okay. I just want to comment on 45 with the ADUs. I think it's very important that we allow ADUs. I think that, this council, and I was outvoted quite some time ago, did not want to see any new development until the master plan is finished. I agree with that. There were some comments that, this affects everyone. This is putting an apartment in the attic next door to your house, putting it in a garage, an apartment in a garage. I think we need to do it. I don't think there will be that many built, but I do think this should be done parallel to the master plan or right after the master plan is complete. We're only one step away, along with all the other development that's being held off, which again, I didn't agree with, but I went ahead with the council's wishes and said we're not approving anything new until that master plan is done. So I would also like if we do have an update when we get a chance on what that master plan status is. But again, I am in favor of the ultimate passing in ordinance number 45.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Ms. Belcher.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the ADUs. We've been talking about ADUs for quite some time. This is not a development initiative. This is a private property right. This is not something that that the planning board has approved. They have found it consistent with the current master plan. It is no need for us to even wait for a new master plan. It speaks to affordability and housing within our community. It speaks to intergenerational living within our community. And if we have to wait for an ADU ordinance. I suggest we wait for a cannabis ordinance. We need to push cannabis back because I think people in our township are more concerned with housing right now than they are with cannabis.
Thank you, Ms.
I think
Belcher.
those are very, very, very valid claims. I mean, I can't really comment on cannabis. I don't really know much about cannabis, and I've never really weighed in on the matter other than studying it and on the location. But at the end of the day, affordability is key. Affordability is clutch. Buildings like 329 Alfred Avenue have given us 40 units of affordable housing. There's a lot we should develop, and ADUs are absolutely one of them. And I look forward to its passage.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Ms. Belcher. Anyone else? Ms. Organ.
Just on 7/20/24, there is no zoning change to cannabis here. If anything, this ordinance is stricter in regard to opening a cannabis establishment. So for that, I am in favor of it. If we were rezoning another area, I would have a big problem with it. But this really just codifies things and should be stricter.
Ms. Goldberg.
And I just want to, before we open it up to the public, so just so we're all clear, so it increases the annual license fees for micro businesses from $1,000 to $5,000, increasing the annual fees for standard businesses from $1,000 to $10,000. The creation and formal establishment of an application process for any person wishing to obtain any license within the Township of Teaneck to be heard only in the public by the full council. And in order to have that, it's a $5,000 application fee. The council will be hearing all applications. My own opinion on it, I don't think the subcommittee needs to continue. Establishing the requirement for any business to enter into host agreements with the township, which allows for things like asking businesses to pay for a police officer or extra security or something like that. And capping the limit on retail licenses within the township to 3. Right now, it's unlimited. And as Councilwoman Organ said, and Deputy Mayor Katz said, this does not touch zoning at all.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Ms. G, is your hand up?
It is. I just want to make the observation that I feel like when certain colleagues make motions, just because those colleagues are the ones who made the motion, I feel like this council is not really considering them. I find it strange that we have council members who are saying they support ordinances, but for these, what I believe to be somewhat insignificant reasons are not going to, support the ordinance, or they support the content on the ordinance, but they don't want to support it now. I've been observing this for the last couple of council meetings. I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that these are really valid reasons, but I hope that we will all consider the content that we all bring to the table, understanding that all 7 of us represent the entire community, and what we bring to this table should be considered and should be held valid. I am saddened by the pattern that I have been seeing these last couple of meetings, and I really truly hope that we reflect on that, and we really hold ourselves accountable to the positions that we were elected into, and really consider everything that we all bring to the table.
Anybody else want to comment?
I do.
Yes, Ms. Organ.
I do actually. I'm curious if that's the case. Your reason for tabling the cannabis ordinance when it's just administrative.
Can I respond?
Anybody want to comment?
Can I just comment on that? We are, just keep in mind that the master plan is not just brick and mortar, it's not just development. It's the values that we hold, that we want to follow within our township. So when we speak about cannabis, when we speak about placing a priority on what's important to us, we have to ask ourselves, do we want to put cannabis, even if it doesn't touch zoning, in front of housing? So I think, I'm not saying that I'm not for this, but just like you guys are tabling something for 60 days, I can table it for 60 days. My request is, let's table it and let's comprehensively wait for the master plan to ensure that it's reflective of the values that we hold dear within this community.
So just one more comment. So my question was actually for Deputy Mayor G.
I was
but
going to
that-
respond.
But that just strengthened the
I have a
opposite
different
of what
reason.
she said, because to table one thing because something else was tabled, then we're not actually doing what we think is best for the residents. We're being petty.
Ms. G.
We're not being.
No, so I saw it slightly different. I think what and Councilwoman Belcher, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think Councilwoman Belcher was pressure testing this concept of, we're not going to make any changes that impact the town until the master plan is settled, right? So if that's really what if that's the reason behind the delay, then certainly we wouldn't want to proceed with any changes to a cannabis resolution until the master plan is complete. So I think that's what she was trying to say, and I was supporting her in that, like, let's be consistent.
Well, I appreciate all your comments, but when it comes to me, it comes down to simple math and whether you have 4 votes or not to pass something. So we're going to move on and to the public hearing, and the public hearing on these 2 ordinances and these 2 ordinances alone are now open. Any member of the public wishing to be heard on these 2 ordinances will be called on to come forward and will state their names and whether they live in Teaneck for the record. Comments or questions shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Does anyone want to talk about these 2 ordinances? Mr. Vatsky.
What 2 ordinances we're talking about?
Handicap parking and
Cats? Cannabis. I'll stand down.
Thank you, Mr. Vatsky. Someone on Zoom, Doug, is there a hand up?
Yes, real quickly, just for our folks on Zoom, I'm lowering all the hands just to reaffirm very quickly that the public hearing taking place right now is strictly for the ordinances that we just
Sir,
read
I have
to
to
the
say, I have to
record.
call on you, and we're doing someone on Zoom first.
It's ordinance 7-2024 and ordinance 9-2024 that we are talking about right now. General good and welfare will be just there in a couple minutes, so please sit tight. Again, this public hearing is just for the ordinances. And with that being said, I'm going to be bringing in Mohammed. Please state your name for the record, nice and clear. Please state which ordinance you're talking about. And again, please state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Bagasa. I'm from Teaneck, here for 17 years. And I support the councilwoman who mentioned that the most priority is the housing than a cannabis. Cannabis should be the lowest one right now. It's not going to bring anything to the township. accept certain things which are not public wants. So I'm with her, and I would like to do the housing first before we step on anything else. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Just a friendly reminder, this is only about these two bills, these two ordinances. Mr. Berliner.
Absolutely, miss. It's
Thank you,
ordinance
Ms.
7.
Lightburn.
Ordinance 7-2024, which is amending ordinance 57-2021, permitting cannabis establishments as a conditional use within the light industry district. As Councilwoman Goldberg mentioned, we're not messing with any zoning with this ordinance. It's establishing an administrative application procedure. And last but not least, for our members in the public, we have ordinance 9-2024, which is a handicap parking space for 46 Werner Place.
Mr.
Hey,
Berliner.
Avi Berliner, TNEC resident. It really doesn't make a difference what we do with these ordinances, right? You're not coming to the voters anyway to say, do I as a resident want ADUs, not want ADUs? Do I want cannabis? Do I not want cannabis? I can tell you that I had been to the public forums that were out there, but I think the bigger problem at the root of this is that we're still waiting for the master plan to be put out. It is weeks late. It is months late. There are no updates that have been put out there. We still don't know why. I think the councilwoman who's in charge of that, we continue to wait. I know that there have been stories regarding the Rossi, regarding other surveys, whatever it may be. But the fact of the matter is that we as a township are still waiting for a master plan, and we still don't have a good story as to why we are waiting for that, as well as some of the other items as for folks who are sitting on that, who have other interests in the town that are potentially forcing certain pieces onto the master plan. And I think that that should be a broader discussion around the master plan before we change zoning and whatnot. Cannabis, am I for it or not? I'm probably not, but it's not changing any of the zoning. It does not impact the master plan. Anything being impacted by the master plan should be waited on until we have a much better story and some more accountability and transparency around that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berliner. Someone on Zoom, Doug, about these two ordinances?
We have Gail Gordon online. Please unmute whenever you're ready.
Hi, Gail Gordon, Teaneck resident. I'm speaking about the cannabis and opposing that, and I'm for the ADUs. And I'm a private citizen. I have my house, and if I want to build an ADU, I think there should be some regulation of it. But I think the choice of that is for me. And I don't see the relationship to the master plan. And I know that it's going to, as Councilman Schwartz said, he would support it. So let's support it. And this has been brought up time and again. And I think it's so important. And I think that this issue of pettiness, there is pettiness, but I think that the other side needs to look at themselves when they look at pettiness. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Lightburn, was your hand up? Sir, go ahead. Come ahead.
Yeah, Rick Wilby, Englewood, New Jersey. Is this on?
Yes, sir.
I want to talk about this cannabis issue. We all know that the Black community was affected disproportionately by not just cannabis, but crack cocaine. And this city needs to be very careful about what it's doing. That dispensary is going down there on Alfred Avenue, correct? That's the location, Alfred Avenue, the industrial district. Now, you guys built that monstrosity over there that blocks out the sun, okay? When you have drug dealing in certain neighborhoods, it's going to bring certain elements of crime. Now, even though I'm Jamaican, I understand that people have the right to smoke their pot, but the city's now engaged in a business that Black folks were criminalized for. And these licenses that you're issuing is not going to affect Black folks. No revenue is going to go to improve the lives of Black people. The rich is just going to keep getting richer, and people are just going to be exploited through this marijuana stuff. Now, I believe that affordable housing, which is a racket, a gimmick nonetheless, should be looked into. We need low-income housing. And I want to know if TNEC has met their affordable housing threshold. And all these units that were built on Alfred, is how many units were built over there? It looks like 300 units. How many units were built there?
There's no back and forth during this part. We answer you after all.
Okay, but I need to know how many units was built, and I need to know why the set aside is only 40 units, and I want to know what is TNEC's obligation for so-called affordable housing, which is unaffordable to Black folks. This seems like gentrification all over again. And I agree with the caller. It's very petty here at this council meeting. It's like we got the Karens versus the Kims. And I really don't appreciate sitting in this audience and listening to what I've been listening to. The divide in this town has brought me here. And the marijuana or whatever you guys think you're going to do is not going to fix the problems in this town. Neither is your chicken ordinances or all these other things that you do to deflect from the real problems. If you want to deal with the real problems, deal with the real problems and stop, just blowing smoke and just telling people what they want to hear. Tell people the inconvenient truth of the matter. And that's how you solve problems.
Someone on Zoom, Doug?
I have Margaret Baker. Please unmute whenever you're ready.
Can you hear me, Doug?
One second, Miss Baker. Please quiet in chambers so we can hear our caller. Please quiet down in chambers so we can hear our caller. Miss Baker, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm calling. I'm here on Decatur, very near Alfred Avenue with the monster building. And I'm aware that you have zoned an area for cannabis. Are you out of your mind? With the traffic that we have here now, and Alfred is a one-way, go down and come up, and you're thinking about leaving that as the location for cannabis? Well, the gentleman that spoke before me, yes, you are correct. It seems as though you're putting everything in the neighborhood where the majority of the residents are Black. It's just too much for this area. And you need to be very careful with what you're doing. Those who are making these decisions, you have no idea of the surroundings in the area. You have blocked us out completely. And you want to put more? Well, you need to come out here and spend the day and see what it's like. No other zone or area in Teaneck was suitable. If you're going to put cannabis in a building, you have a lot of empty shops on Cedar Lane. Go there, spread it out. Here you have people speeding. I can't even get the yellow line and the crosswalk. Oh, by the way, that's another thing. You haven't done anything for the traffic. You made it worse. And now you're talking about this is the only zone for cannabis? Wake up. I see the light. I see what you're doing. And it's not right. And it's not going to work. So spread out your new projects all over Teaneck. Don't just come to this area. We can't get the basic service out here, but you can put everything else out here. And it's not right. The light is on, and I personally see what you're doing.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Thank you, Ms. Baker. Mr. Kaplan?
Keith Kaplan, Teaneck resident. Regarding the cannabis ordinance, and when I was on council, I said the same thing. I mean, put them all over the place if you want. Put them on Cedar Lane. Put them on, the corner by River and Cedar where the 7-Eleven is. It would be a good spot, and you'd get the Hackensack traffic. I actually agree with a lot of what Rick Wilby said. I mean, other than the fact that I don't believe we're actually selling crack. But the bigger problem that he didn't mention is that the taxes, while high, are prohibitively high because the only way that it actually makes a dent in the black market is if you can underscore the price that people are selling for. If you want to put the guy that's selling to kids and getting people incarcerated out of business, what you got to do is underscore and undercut his prices and let capitalism do its thing. So I see no reason why we can't put it in Alfred Avenue. It's a perfectly fine thing for that area. In fact, it's much better than the chemicals and solvents and crap that's there now. And, I don't think anybody could possibly argue otherwise. The answer is that we do need to have it in other places, and we see it all over the place. I mean, my God, walk over to FDU, you'll smell it tonight, probably right now. Regarding number 9, I just wanted to mention, because the question came up before, we do actually have, I recalled when I was on council, we updated the ordinance. This was 11.2 that they do expire 5 years for any residential and 2 years for any renters after the date that they're created. The problem is somebody's got to monitor that. So I would suggest if the clerk or the building department or whoever, police or whoever's handling this doesn't have it on a set schedule, you pick 1 day per year and, whatever was approved 5 years prior for residential, send out a letter, do you need this extended? The idea behind it was that 5 years for residential, on average, people might be moving out, if they need it renewed, so be it, and that could easily be done. And renters have a more itinerant period in between. Regarding the whether or not we should table these things, I just want to refresh the memories of people that Councilwoman Belcher, there is an ethics complaint currently pending with the state regarding the people that sell real estate in the municipality, making a master plan within the municipality and making land use ordinances within the municipality, especially those that were created, those ordinances that were created to keep Blacks and Jews out, like the ones that were used to keep a school out of the Northeast. If we want to discuss these things openly and honestly, we really need to do so. And I'd welcome you to do that with
Thank
me
you, Mr.
anytime.
Kaplan. Thank you. Doug, someone on Zoom?
I have RK. Please state your name for the record.
Hey, good evening, Doug. This is Reshma Khan, Council. The hypocrisy is very, very apparent. You don't even have to hide behind any agendas now. Thank you, Ms. Baker, for your words of wisdom and your brutal honesty in pointing out the injustices that have been meted out to this town by this council. Not only are you all on the council, the cartel that's being formed, and you are taking advantage of your position, but you have also forgotten that some people who are in this cartel ran on the election promise that you will do right by Ms. Baker. And here is Ms. Baker asking you and reminding you, and still you continue down this path. And also, council members, let me remind you, cannabis is the one topic that actually brought together several communities against having cannabis in town. What have you done to make it more transparent? Where are the town halls you promised? We had one, which was a beautiful showcase for how cannabis industry must thrive in any town going forward. Well, cannabis is available in Paramus. People who want from Teaneck can go over there. And tonight you're rushing through the cannabis ordinance, but at the same time you are trying to, deter Ms. Denise Belcher from what she had to say. Not only is your pettiness so apparent, it has become vitally clear that since it is election season, some people will sway with the wind. Other people who are not up for re-election will take it easy and really relax and not have anything to say and be complicit with everything else that council members are doing. If I sound angry, I'm not. I'm extremely outraged. I'm passionate about our town. I'm passionate about transparency and promoting democracy here. So please give us the right answers. Every time forming a cartel and trying to subdue the voices of those who are speaking out just words of wisdom, words of justice and honesty is not going to work. Thank you.
Mr. Rose, I think I saw your hand up.
Thank you. Howard Rose, Teaneck resident, 45 years. I guess I'm not surprised, just disappointed. This cannabis situation. I don't understand why it's desirable to have, and I'm not for or against it. I guess I'm probably more for it than against it, but relatively neutral. I don't understand though why it's sequestered into one area of the township. You're adding insult to injury. You put a mega structure in one area, and then you put a dope manufacturing center there as well. And then you're going to put outlets for sales there as well. I was under the understanding 3 years ago that there was some discussion. Why it took 3 years is beyond me, that there was some discussion that there would be multiple places for purchase. I look across the street from where I have a store, and I'm on one of the busiest business streets in the township. And across the street from me, there are 4 empty stores. Should one of them be for cannabis? I don't know. Should there be 4 stores limited to township? Put a number on it, but get it diffused from one specific area that's inundated and put a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit in the other place. Sprinkle it around. That seems to be a much more equitable situation than what you're proposing right now. So in terms of deferring this ordinance for 60 days or 30 days or until the master plan is done, and the master plan does set the tone for the town, don't underestimate it. I say forego it for now and reevaluate it completely. And let the township know what you're doing when you reevaluate it. It's been a secret process for about 3 years. Why isn't there transparency? Why aren't people understanding what's going on, why it's going on, what you're trying to achieve, how you're trying to achieve it, and what the impact is going to be? I hear all these $5,000 here, $10,000 there as fees. What income is it really generating for Teaneck? What income and what amount of sales does a retail outlet have to earn to pay those kind of fees and make a profit? Are we talking about it needs 100 sales a day, 500 sales a day? What's going on here? What are the statistics? What's the information that you're not giving to us? Perhaps because you don't know. Find out, let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Doug, someone on Zoom?
I have Jesse Leon.
Jesse Leon, Teaneck resident. I'm actually calling in about the 46 Warner ordinance. That's my neighbor. It's my block. I fully support their ability to have some reserved on-street parking for handicapped use. We have a block that doesn't have parking allowed at all except for Sundays and holidays. Maybe that's something you guys want to reconsider in the near future. On the issues of ADUs and cannabis, to me, they're a little bit linked. They're questions of how much regulation you guys really need to interpose on any of our lives. The voters of New Jersey, the voters of the United States, come to the 2/3 conclusion that legal cannabis is a good thing. Sequestering it in one tiny little corner that's far from everything, it's far from the police, it's far from the highway. I guess it's not far from the highway. It's far from the main business districts of town. If you want cannabis to succeed in Teaneck, it should succeed on Cedar Lane. It should succeed on Teaneck Road. It should succeed on Queen Anne Road or DeGraw. It should succeed wherever it happens to be. There are a dozen vape shops selling Delta 8, which is essentially marijuana. Those might be great locations for a legal pot shop. So maybe we should think about liberalizing that ordinance to let the market decide just exactly where the thing that people want to buy is actually getting sold, instead of sticking it in a little corner and leaving the externalities with a precious few people who, obviously are very frustrated with that. But otherwise, obviously, if it makes it easier to bring it to town, make it easier to bring it to town. If it makes it easier for people to live in their homes and to make them accessible for a renter to offset the cost of living in Teaneck, or for, a family member so that they can live a little bit more frugally together, or have an intergenerational household, do that 100%. Make it easier and cheaper and freer for us to live in this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leon. Miss Angel?
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me? Hi, Maxine Angel. I live in Teaneck. So the cannabis issue, I think, brought us together, right? It's been a couple of years, but we spent a lot of hours together talking about this. Anything you can do to make it more, look, Matt, total respect to Mr. Leon, and I fully support the chickens. I'm sorry that's not up right now. Cannabis, just because people want it legalized doesn't mean that we want it in our neighborhoods. And we've discussed this a few times that TNEC maybe just isn't the place. So if the goal of the ordinance is to make it more difficult for retailers to open, then I'm all in favor of that. And Ms. Khan had a great point that our discussions about cannabis really brought a lot of communities together, because so many of us said we don't want it around our kids. We don't want it near the playgrounds. We don't want it near our houses of worship. And we agreed on that, and we had some great conversations. And so it's back up for discussion. And it's good to have it discussed. We should have it out in the open, but I don't think that cannabis should be retailed anywhere in Teaneck. And we can learn from other municipalities' mistakes over the past couple of years that we've seen places walk back their cannabis legalization. So while it's fine for people to choose what they want to do in the privacy of their own homes, having this as a retail option, Teaneck's not the place. So we have to look for other options to bring revenue to town. And I'm sure that we can come up with something creative that will work for all of us. But cannabis just doesn't belong in Teaneck, not for retail or cultivation or any of the other engagements with that. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Angel. Someone on Zoom, Doug?
I have Sandy.
Hi, Sandy Silverberg, Teaneck. I want to speak about the cannabis location. I've been lobbying for quite a while about safety in that area, exiting from Route 4. And I even went with Councilwoman Organ and took a look at it, and I'm very happy that there was at least an initial step toward making those streets a little safer and exiting the highway a little safer. But locating a cannabis store in that area does not enhance the safety. That's not a small business area. So people who are coming, yes, I know there could be a cafe, there could be a this, there could be a that. In the meantime, there isn't anything except the monstrosity that's there. And the traffic of people getting on and getting off easily, and the word will spread that there's a cannabis place there. If they come off and on the highway, I shudder to think at how much more traffic there's going to be there and how much more horrible the situation is going to be. If it were up to me, there'd be no cannabis sales at all in Teaneck. I think it's preposterous. It's ridiculous to my way of thinking. You want to smoke cannabis? Fine. That's your own business. But to have it in a non-commercial district seems absurd and, excuse me, blatantly obvious about, we're going to have it, but we're going to stick it over here because that neighborhood is, it's blatant and it bothers me. If I were a little more creative, I would have lots of signs bouncing back and forth behind me saying no chickens, no this, no that, yes this, yes that. But the cannabis thing, you hear how much resistance there is to having it there. What's the harm in putting it off for a little bit while, a little longer, figuring out a little bit better what to do? If you stranglehold it, my local dope dealer is going to undercut you. So I don't know. It seems so unfair and so obviously wrong. I hope you'll change your minds. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Silverberg. The gentleman in the middle? Yes, sir.
Evening. Erez Gilad, 22-year resident of Teaneck. It's tied to my anniversary, so if I get that wrong, I'm in big trouble. This is my first time addressing City Council. I have to admit, I hadn't come to meetings until non-Teaneck matters began to fill the agenda. I was curious, so I started coming to the meetings. And I found something very interesting. As the meeting discussions were filled with so many matters that didn't relate to Teaneck per se, people that would come to the podium with specific requests for repair, everybody was like, fantastic. You have something to talk about that is specific to the town. So I'm going to take advantage of that. And I'm going to point out that we could really use some street lighting on Jefferson.
Yeah, this is for the two ordinances.
Oh, this is not public comment.
No, but it's coming up soon. So
I'm covered. I got you. A unity initiative for Teaneck, okay? You feed cannabis to the legalized chickens and you kill two birds with one stone. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir. Doug, someone on Zoom.
I have Sharuk Awadallah. Give us 1 second. Sharuk's coming in. Sharuk, whenever you're ready, you're free to unmute.
Hi, good evening. Shuruk Awadallah, Teaneck resident. I wanted to speak to the cannabis ordinance. Opening cannabis dispensaries in our community poses significant risk, including increased access to a substance that can and will impair our children's cognitive function, leading to dependency and contribute to public safety concerns. Moreover, the presence of these dispensaries are going to negatively impact our community's character and youth. It's going to encourage normalization and misuse. We should prioritize the well-being and safety of our residents by not allowing these establishments to operate locally. Please don't sell out our children for a revenue. Listen to your constituents and vote no to this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Lightburn. Was that your hand up?
For the last, I don't know how long now, but we all have brought this up over and over again about not putting, first we didn't want the big building, then y'all told us y'all weren't going to put the cannabis in there, if y'all remember correctly. I don't know what happened, but that area is a Black and Latino community. We're getting hit. There's a church, a community church is down there. We shouldn't even think about putting in there. It reminds me of the old days, what they did to Harlem, where you had a church on every corner and then a liquor store on the next corner. There is also a park there. I thought you can't have these places by where the children play. Not only that, you have besides the traffic for Ms. Baker, which I feel so sorry for that lady. Y'all really need to build a fence for her protection because of what y'all did to her property. But there's nothing but seniors over there. I don't know, y'all don't know what's over in the area, but there is nothing but seniors that is gonna get hurt. You're going to have the New York traffic coming in, get high. It's dark over there and nothing's changing. Y'all really need to think about putting it on Cedar Lane where it should go in a business community. Give them a break. They already have that big building. Too many people population over there. Just on a Sunday, the blocks are complaining. They're already complaining because there's so many cars coming from all over the community to go to that church. And I'm surprised community, which I'm gonna drop a dime tomorrow, I don't understand why community haven't come at y'all yet. Community Baptist Church, if y'all don't know. I don't have that many more things to say other than you really need to reconsider. And I don't understand, why is it? He's right. Y'all are putting everything in the Black, all the buildings are being built in the Black community, all these cannabis stores in, just on the Northeast, don't we have 3 already? We have 3. What's happening? I don't see anything happening on the other side of town when I drive. I don't see anything happening on the south side of town when I'm driving. What is happening? Do we need to organize and really come out here at y'all to get, because y'all are not listening to us. And I am so tired, Karen, of you screwing up your lip and not responding.
Mr. Mayor, names.
If you can address the council. Or
Okay,
Ms. Lightburn.
your attitude is nasty. I don't even bother to come anymore. We've been saying the same thing over and over and over. And what do y'all do? Y'all keep on building.
Thank you, Ms. Lightburn. Thank you, Ms. Lightburn. Doug, someone on Zoom?
I have Darren Chandler. Darren Chandler, please unmute, say your name for the record.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, my name is Darren Chandler Jr. I am a resident of Teaneck, I think for the past 7 years. I grew up my whole entire life in Hackensack. Don't judge me for that. But also my profession, I actually own a cannabis dispensary. It's been open for a month in Keyport, New Jersey, down the shore. I'm also a commercial real estate broker for the past 12 years, and all I do is cannabis real estate sales. I've been recognized by the governor, Phil Murphy, at 2023 State of the Union for my efforts in the cannabis space. I have spoken to some of the town council previously to lend my expertise, and I want to do that as well. I've listened to a lot of these council meetings, the town hall, and I think a lot of people may be intellectually lazy when it comes to cannabis. They only really read articles versus actually going to a dispensary. Like I said, I'm running a dispensary. The store just closed maybe a half an hour ago. There's no crime. There's not people smoking outside. There's not vagrants. We really have to look at this as a traditional business and not something that is nefarious. I relayed the information. I think that Alfred Ave was always a terrible location to put a cannabis dispensary because it's just a retail store. You wouldn't put an ice cream shop down on that block, so you shouldn't put a cannabis shop down on that block. It should be on one of the main roads, Teaneck Road, Cedar Lane, DeGraw, what a lot of people echoed today. But again, I live here. I live right across the street from FDU. I would love to continue to educate the community and lend my expertise because this is a business that's not going away, and the town could really benefit from the tax revenue from it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Horowitz.
Hi, good evening. Emma Horowitz, Teaneck resident. I think that I first became comfortable speaking at council meetings on the topic of cannabis, and it's a little surreal to be back here in front of you talking about it again, but here we are. So I just wanted to reiterate my longstanding opinion that I hear so much frustration in the voices of people who live near Alfred Avenue, and I would feel the same way if cannabis was coming to my neighborhood. I wouldn't want it either. And one thing that I think brings so many of us in town together is that most people really just who I speak to do not seem to want it in their neighborhood. And if no one wants it in their neighborhood, then maybe we're just not the right town to have it. And, we don't have a tremendous amount of business districts that are totally separate from residential districts. I'm sure there are towns that are like that, but our businesses and our residences are very close together. And I share the concerns that others have mentioned about normalization. I think it's not something we want to normalize for our kids. I don't think it's the same drug that it was 20, 30 years ago. And that doesn't mean that I don't read articles. I have probably read dozens and dozens and dozens of them. And I think that there's been a change in culture across a lot of towns and a lot of municipalities and even internationally, seeing that this has not been the panacea that people thought it would be financially, nor has it been good for children and families and people and addiction. So I understand that a lot of what's going on in this ordinance is probably actually quite helpful in terms of limiting the number of licenses, and I applaud that, but I still think the number of licenses should be 0. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Horowitz. Someone on Zoom, Doug?
I have Josefa on. Please feel free to unmute, state your name for the record.
Hi, my name's Josefa. I'm a longtime resident of Teaneck. First time speaking at a town council meeting, even though I've attended many via Zoom. When I received the agenda and I saw the cannabis bill, I thought, oh my gosh, I have to speak up. I first of all was shocked when I saw the CBD stores start to pop up on Queen Anne and State Street, 2 on Cedar Lane, 1 on Teaneck Road, and now we're bringing cannabis here. The CBD stores all have these bright lights attracting, I don't know who they're attracting, but it's certainly, bright lights attract the moths. So please, I hear the concern of the residences of Alfred Street, but really, this is more about bringing CBD stores and cannabis retail stores into Teaneck. You know, as the other individuals have said, let's start building up Cedar Lane again. To drive down Cedar Lane, it's so sad to see the number of stores that are vacant. I'm sure we can all put our heads together and come up with some very profitable stores on Cedar Lane that will bring the Teaneck community back together. You know, street traffic on Cedar Lane. Let's start thinking that way. I don't think cannabis has any place in our precious town, Teaneck. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr.
Well, I know this is a hearing, everyone must speak. Would it be the right time to remind people and clarify that this is actually not about approving cannabis, but it's actually a fee-based ordinance? Would that be something?
An application.
Yeah, this has all been approved. This is literally a fee-based, maybe if the clerk can read what we're actually discussing. And these are very concerns, but this was approved a while ago. It's literally about the fees being charged.
No, thank you for that reminder, because we have said it a couple times. Mr. Clerk, would you mind repeating that, just reading it again, so this way everybody knows that this is just about increasing the fees?
Yeah, absolutely. Just give me 1 second here
Take your time, sir.
to bring up some accompanying information to our clear and concise title. So again, this is amending an ordinance previously approved back in 2021 for cannabis establishments as a conditional use within the light industry district. What ordinance 57-2021 did, Mayor, Council, Public, was establish the permittance of such operations in that area. What ordinance 7 is doing specifically, ordinance 7-2024, as we've mentioned in passing a few times this evening, it is merely establishing a formalized process to the application for someone to try and open up a cannabis establishment in the township. It's setting fees, it's setting licensing caps, it's set out an application procedure. We've been working on an application with our cannabis council. That's not my timer. It's also establishing definitions around some of our licenses. It has different caps for different kinds of licenses. It also lays out a suspension and civil penalty if someone's not abiding by this application procedure. It gives power to council to revoke a license after a public hearing should they deem that necessary. It's really clarifying a process that had yet to be clarified from a couple years ago.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Ma'am, did you still want to speak on this?
Sherwat Pagoda resident. So I've been watching this cannabis ordinance for a while now. It's been 3 years. There's been no clarification up until recently about pricing as far as I'm aware with the licenses. Today was the first time I've heard about it, and the reaction of the crowd was kind of like, oh my God, who's going to afford these prices? And it's going to be the big, cannabis stores who, while they are regulated a little bit better, it's killing the small business market. I think from that perspective, I was against that. I was against the location. I think it's a terrible area. There are 3 dispensaries that are within a 15-minute driving distance from Teaneck. The vape shops can sell Delta, I believe it's Delta 8 and Delta 10 legally. They are classified as hemp products. CBD is not considered cannabis. I feel like a lot of people are just unaware of these different things. It's in Teaneck already. People are smoking in Teaneck. As somebody who grew up in the area, I've been smoking cannabis, I'm sorry, Mom, since I was in high school. It's not going to go away. And if we're afraid of what the kids and our families and our children are seeing, that is education, that is coming from the family and how we're raising our kids. And it's not because an adult is smoking cannabis. It's like banning steak because a baby can't eat it because they don't have teeth. It's a little absurd to me. But yeah, the pricing, I'm absolutely kind of shocked to hear that we're going from 1,000 to 5,000 and 10,000. It seems a little excessive, and it's barring the small businesses from being able to thrive in Teaneck. So I would want the council to at least reconsider that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Doug, anybody on Zoom?
I have Dwayne Harley.
Good afternoon, Dwayne Harley, Bogan Street, Teaneck resident. I was calling in tonight to support or talk about the ADUs that the ordinance should go through today, because there's really no sense of putting it to the side or delaying it, because the ADU ordinance already complies with the master plan. So denying the going through with the ordinance tonight is of no consequence, because the reality is it would make more sense to know, once we actually going through the master plan, that the ADU would be an option, because the reality is our residents, there's a quality of life issue dealing with property value, rates of rent and things like that. They need to know, and that is an immediate need to help our residents have affordable living. So I just think that saying anything different by not going through with this ordinance, you are being petty. I mean, the reality is you're being petty if you're going to vote against it for whatever reason. Y'all look really ridiculous sitting on your hands, not letting this go, saying it's going to affect the master plan, when the master plan, the planning board already approved the ADUs, that it complies with the master plan. So your excuses of not going forward with this ADU initiative is just simply ridiculous and childish.
Mr. Harley, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yes.
ADUs are no longer one of the resolutions that are being considered. So if
Oh,
you
it's
could
not?
just talk
Oh,
to-
okay.
Yeah, if you could just talk to the two the
I
ordinances.
thought
that
it
are-
was, though. I thought we were talking about the ADUs
It
and
was,
the.
but it got tabled, sir. And so we're only talking about the two other ordinances.
Oh,
But if
then
you want to talk during good and welfare about ADUs, that's
Okay. Well, I said what I had to say, because that's what I thought we was on. So I apologize.
No, it's okay. Thank you, Mr. Harley.
Thank you. Yeah.
Anyone else in chambers want to talk about these two ordinances? Mr. Vatsky?
I don't know that much about cannabis anymore. But I have to confess that you're making it harder for the people of Teaneck to understand what's going on. If you can talk about the ordinances by number, we're not that quick. If you want to tell us where places are, I'm looking at the map. Where's the map? I've been asking you for months. Please put some maps here so people have a point of reference. Okay? I've asked for this before. And it would really help us, I think, out here to keep things straight. Well, our heads are spinning. You can talk about numbers. You can't talk about names. And even you could put a little flag up here to say, we're talking about this ordinance, so we all know. And that's what I think we need that improvement. Spend $1,000, put up a couple of maps, get a laser pointer, and let us move forward on this. Thank you.
Mr. Vatsky. Someone on Zoom, Doug? I think you said there were two more. Miss Lightburn, I'm sorry, but there's no back and forth until after everybody testifies. We're talking about the two ordinances, which you actually spoke on, and I think we have two more people on Zoom, and then hopefully council can talk about it.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have Sandra Young, and yes, as a reminder, we are still talking about Ordinance 7 and Ordinance 9-2024. Miss Young, whenever you are ready, you are free to unmute.
Hi, this is Chandra Young, Teaneck, New Jersey, Irvington Road. I want to take the time to say that it's unfortunate that the meeting seems to be going a different direction. I believe we're here to get the work done for the residents of the people of Teaneck, and there's a strong sense of miseducation going here. I'm wondering if we as residents are actually reading the agendas and reading the ordinances, or are we just being called to speak on things? Because it's really a disservice to call and be so, as you say, not angry, but passionate about things, and you're giving misinformation. The ordinance to allow cannabis in the town of Teaneck was approved by the prior council in 2021. That is not what we are discussing. If your master plan will reverse that, if you can tell the residents that your master plan is going to reverse that 2021 ordinance so that there is no cannabis in Teaneck, then yes, I would agree table it. But if you cannot do that with the master plan, then this ordinance tonight is regulating. It is a fact that the prior council approved the ordinance of council of the cannabis. It is a fact that there is an ordinance already on the books to allow cannabis. It is a fact that this ordinance is tightening those regulations. I do want to concur with another resident that said, make sure that you have consulted with our small businesses, our local owners that are trying to get applications so that we don't price them out. We do want to allow for small businesses. I'm not saying I'm for or against cannabis. What I'm saying is there's a process, and if we're going to be adamantly talking about something, let's make sure we educate the residents. So again, this ordinance is regulating, tightening, from what I'm understanding, from what I read, tightening the regulation of the ordinance that was approved in 2021. This ordinance is not allowing cannabis on Alfred Avenue or Cedar Lane or State Street or Queen Anne Road. What it is doing is tightening regulations, something that I'm sure your code enforcement officer that you speak of would love to have a tight regulation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Doug, I don't see any other hands in chambers. I think you said there was another person on Zoom.
Bringing in Joe Spiegel. Joe Spiegel, please unmute, not your timer, sir. Please bear with our friend Joe. He's coming in right now.
Hey.
Joe Spiegel, whenever you're ready.
All right, good evening. Joe Spiegel here, former Teaneck resident, 30 years. In full transparency, I am an aspiring cannabis business owner with two of my partners who are also from Teaneck. We are not rich, we're not wealthy, we're not a multi-state operation, we are a small business, and we have been getting killed with the non-action by Teaneck over the past 2 years. I'm speaking about the cannabis ordinance. I'm very confused why anybody would oppose a more robust licensing framework to go forward. I don't see why we would table it. What this ordinance has to do with the master plan, I would love to know. It doesn't make sense to me. But just hearing everybody chime in about this topic, I really think people have the wrong idea about cannabis. And I understand why the stigma runs deep. It goes back decades. But as a reminder, it's legal in the state of New Jersey, both medicinally and recreationally. And people have to remember that this is medicine for a lot of people. The federal government has acknowledged it. It's why, in process now, it's being moved from a Schedule I substance to Schedule III on the same level as a prescription you get at the local CVS. It's not more harmful than alcohol. And we have liquor stores in Teaneck, and no one is lobbying to get those shut down. At least I'm not hearing about it. I grew up in Teaneck, and I hear people's concerns about, if a dispensary is in town, it's easier for my kids to get it. I'm going to have to agree with the young woman who spoke earlier. You know, being someone who grew up in Teaneck, cannabis is already in town. The kids can get it if they want. Not having a dispensary leaves an open market for the black market, for the drug dealers to have a place in Bergen County to sell their drugs. It doesn't add more crime. It reduces it. Teaneck needs the tax revenue. It's perplexing, some of the arguments I'm hearing. And it's perplexing that this ordinance, which doesn't touch zoning, it doesn't change the fact that cannabis is already legal and allowed in town. It just regulates it more. It's just perplexing that it's being argued as if we're gonna go back and deliberate whether cannabis should be in town.
Mr. Spiegel. Thank you, Mr. Spiegel. Doug, you said there's one more on Zoom?
Mahajabeen, please feel free to unmute and state your name for the record.
Can you hear me? It's Mahajabeen Kathawala.
Loud and clear. You have 3 minutes.
Yes. So my question is, we've been hearing that it's going to bring some revenue to the town. So how much of the revenue is it bringing to the town? Number one. Number two is that to the second last person who spoke, who said that, the ordinance is already approved into 2020. Yes, it was approved, but people were against it and people are still against it. And that's the point, that you all elected members were elected to represent the people of the town. And if majority of the town people are not approving this cannabis, then it shouldn't take place. You are not here to enforce your opinion and matters on people. You're here to listen to public and their opinions. And if we don't want it, then it shouldn't take place. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss. Is that it, Doug? Seeing no further hands, this public hearing is closed. Anyone on council want to comment? Mr. Schwartz?
Yeah, I'll try to make it brief, and I thank everyone for, speaking. I'm just going to stick to the comments as it relates to the real estate aspect, something I know near and dear in development. To the question of what's being built on Alfred Avenue, 329 Alfred Avenue is approximately 245 rental units, of which 15%, which is Teaneck's law, is the set aside for affordable housing. As it relates to Margaret Baker and spreading it out, I fully agree with her. We cannot put all development in one area. To that end, we have quite a bit of conversation about the future of American Legion Drive in Cedar Lane and the development posed there. Avalon and at 1775 Windsor Road, 240 units there. We have put additional units down River Road at Newbridge, additional units south of Teaneck Road, and additional units and the Bogota border on Palisade Avenue. So we really have a nice spreading out, and we have quite a bit of units proposed for the future of DPW and River Road, which I look forward to speaking about in future meetings. Mr. Rose, the 4 vacancies that you stare at, there's actually 2. 2 of them are long-term leases paying rent. One's an expansion of the Bridge Restaurant, and one is a tea shop. Not sure why they're not open for business, but they're leased up and paying rents. As it relates to the Alfred Avenue, someone mentioned a comment about that it's not fair to the residents of Alfred Avenue. There are no residents of Alfred Avenue. Alfred Avenue is a light industrial area that is completely isolated on its own, and it does not have any residents down there. Keep in mind, the area that is approved for cannabis is approximately a quarter mile away from 329 Alfred Avenue down the block. Lastly, very important, Ms. Lightburn, about the church. That's a very valid comment, and it troubled me, and I looked it up. 445 Alfred Avenue is actually 0.8 of a miles away from the Community Baptist Church in a 13-minute walk. So that is not a danger in any way, if that can be deemed a danger. Again, thank you, everyone for their comments, and I look forward to our vote.
Anyone else? Ms. Belcher?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I just want to mention, Mrs. Gordon, there is no connection between ADUs and the master plan, other than the fact that Planning Board has already approved that ADUs are consistent with the existing master plan. They found that ADUs are consistent. I want to mention to Mr. Berliner that the steering committee had the master plan for 6 months. The planning board received the master plan 6 weeks ago. They are actively beginning the engagement. They just had to hire a planning board attorney. So you can know that essentially it's going to be reviewed, and we're actively looking at approving the master plan in the short distance of time. Just want to mention here again, master plan is a reflection of who we are and what we want development to be in our town. I want to mention that the ADUs can be actually looked toward being affordable housing credits as we approach that ordinance. There are many townships that are doing that. I want to mention that Mrs. Baker and Ms. Lightburn, I am so sorry for that monstrosity that Mrs. Baker has to live next to. That was approved by a prior planning board and a prior council. It should never have happened. I understand that you're outraged about certain things that seem to end up in certain communities. And that's why it's so important not to rush through a master plan, is to get it right, because there are many, many components that we want to look at to ensure that things are done right. And lastly, Mr. Kaplan, realtors have had tremendous help in shaping master plans throughout our state, and they will continue to do so. I'd be happy, however, to review any kind of rules or regulations with you. Thank you.
Ms. Belcher, Ms. Organ.
So thank you to everybody who read the ordinance, who then stood up and spoke. I just want to review it one more time for those of you who didn't read it. What this ordinance does is it increases licensing fees. It creates a formal application process for anybody who wishes to obtain a license. And that license, they would have to be heard by the entire council, not by a subcommittee. So there's your transparency. It's actually increasing transparency. It will require any business that opens here to enter into a host agreement with the township, giving back to the township. It puts a cap on the number of retail licenses, and it does not affect zoning at all. There are no changes for that here. There has always been a social equity component to cannabis for minorities. So that's already put in place by the state. There is no change in zoning or where cannabis will be located. This only tightens the regulations and gives the town more control over who comes here and what opens here. Ms. Lightburn, threats are beneath you. That was not okay. Okay. And who else said something? I forgot. I forgot what my last point was.
Is that all, Ms. Organ?
You were talking about ordinance 7.
I know what it's about. It was just to answer somebody who spoke. I'm sorry. It'll come to me later. I'll bring it up
Thank you,
after
Ms.
good and
Organ.
welfare.
Thank you, Ms. Organ. Ms. Goldberg.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So thank you everyone for speaking. It's oddly refreshing and normal to be talking about cannabis in this room. To see Ms. Horowitz talking about cannabis really feels like old times. I remember the public hearing on cannabis. It was in August of 2021. Cannabis is already legal in Teaneck. It's already zoned on Alfred in the light industrial zone. This changes nothing in regard to zoning. This is strictly administrative. To the voices who called about transparency, thank you for addressing this. This updated ordinance makes this process more transparent. The applications will be heard by the full council in open session for everyone to hear. There will be an application that you can Oprah. And in order to have that application and to be heard, it will cost $5,000. This ordinance did not address zoning because, as you can hear and see, it is a discussion and a contested issue that needs further exploration. We are listening and we do hear you. That being said, that does not mean that we should not address the lack of process and fees that need to be addressed, which is what this ordinance is doing. Alfred Avenue is and has been zoned for cannabis since 2022. This has been discussed publicly for over a year, and the overview of this ordinance was read and put in the agenda packet on April 16th, and we even had the first ever subcommittee meeting on cannabis. This ordinance makes this process transparent and put in the open and gives fees for our building department, for the clerk's office, so that we can handle this properly. There has been a cannabis subcommittee report in every single agenda when a meeting has taken place since January of 23. As you can hear, a location is a more complex discussion, but we need to address the administrative process, which is exactly what we're doing. We do not put work on hold while waiting for other things to happen. We can do more than one thing at once.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Ms. G or Mr. Katz, I can't see you guys, but did you want to say something?
Yes, I have my hand raised. So I just want to, on the record, share with residents that I am in support of cannabis. My problem with this ordinance is the fact that, again, it's, you know, I know this is an administrative ordinance, but the fact that the only zoned area in Teaneck is in a largely Black and brown community. And when there was an attempt to rezone an area near Cedar Lane, it was quickly shot down when other community members complained about it. And so my real issue is I'm concerned that this council isn't equitably addressing the concerns and requests of all residents. We see children come in and request pickleball courts. It gets fast tracked. We see children come in and talk about the chicken ordinance. All of a sudden people's minds are changed. But when other community members come in and beg for compliance officers, it gets denied. When other community members say, please do not build a massive building in a largely single family residential area, it gets pushed through anyway. And so my concern is that I don't believe this council understands the optics of the decisions that we're making. It does not feel like we've been equitably listening to our residents, and that is a problem, and we need to do better going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. G. I don't see Ellie's hand up. I just want to say thank you to everyone for speaking up. And I make a motion to approve both ordinances.
Second.
That is a first from Mayor Pagan for ordinance 7 and 9-2024, and a second from Councilwoman Goldberg. Councilman Schwartz.
Yes, on both.
Councilman Belcher.
No.
On both. On both, Councilwoman. Received.
Yeah.
Received. Councilwoman Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor G.
Yes.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
All adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Our next order of business is good and welfare. Any member of the public wishing to be heard will be called on and will state their names and whether they live in Teaneck for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. And if you are on Zoom, please list your first name and your last name so that our clerk can call on you. And please turn on your camera when speaking. Let's start with someone on this side. Mr. Rockland.
Teaneck, Michael Rockland. First, I want to say that I'm excited to see my name on the agenda tonight, and I hope that I will get to serve in a slightly more formal capacity as well. I'm disappointed to see that we're tabling the ADU ordinance. I think that it would be great. I just moved in with my parents for about a year, hopefully. And so far it's going amazingly. It's really something special to see a multi-generational household, to live in a multi-generational household. I also think it would be great if there was like just a little bit more space between us. And I think that ADUs really, really will enable that to get done. On the topic of safe streets, we heard a lot tonight already, even just on the topic of cannabis on Alfred Avenue, on development in general. We always hear about this from the manager as well, that we are improving our streets on a regular basis. We even just adopted an ordinance to approve a special reserved parking for somebody who has distinct needs because they are handicapped. Now, many handicapped people need cars to get around this town. Many people that have handicaps cannot drive. But they can do other things. They can potentially walk, they can roll, they can get around town if the town is designed for them. That's why just a few meetings ago, Safe Streets Teaneck, pushed you guys forward a little bit, I hope, and Complete Streets Bergen County to adopt a Complete Streets ordinance. Just as a reminder, for those who don't remember, a Complete Streets ordinance is about making sure that our streets are designed for people, no matter how they get around, whether that's driving, which is very important, or if they take public transit, or if they bike, or if they walk, or if they're rolling in some other, contraption, whether that's a chair or something else, scooter. And as we repave our streets, as we improve our streets, that is really critical that we're thinking about that as we go along in the process there. One thing that I've noticed in recent weeks is Queen Anne Road. Queen Anne Road is a place where there are a lot of places for people to cross the road. It's also a road where we have 2 retail districts. It's also a road where we have a bus. It's also a road that we control, which is nice for a change. And I really hope that there are some projects that we can do to improve the ability of whether it's school children, people who want to get to synagogue, people who want to get to Teaneck High School, people who want to get on or off the bus, to be able to cross that road, because that is a really great opportunity for us to demonstrate what roads can be designed to do, which is to make it easier to get around, whether it's walking or driving. Now, Deputy Mayor G mentioned that the Senior Citizens Advisory Board said 25 miles an hour on all streets. That would be amazing, but our streets need to be designed for those speeds. And I hope
Thank you,
we can
Mr.
make that design.
Rockland.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Doug, someone on Zoom?
Bringing in Layla. Please unmute and state your name for the record. Layla, please unmute, state your name for the record.
Hello?
Hi, yes, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Layla, Teaneck resident. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Friends and family ask me why I insist on attending these meetings and speaking up for Palestine when I know that our council is vehemently anti-Arab, anti-Palestinian, and anti-Muslim. They ask me why I insist on staying up late in order to read a statement when it dysregulates my entire nervous system to be in the presence of such cold, callous, uncaring politicians. And now, especially since what transpired last council meeting left me deeply traumatized, bruised, and shaken, my family and friends wonder why I insist on speaking on Palestine at these meetings even more now. They wonder why I insist on attending these meetings despite being a disabled, visibly Muslim woman who was never received warmly in council or anywhere in my hometown. And I tell them that, number one, I am documenting history. These statements and the statements of my fellow pro-Palestinian friends in this town will forever be on the record. And as we bear witness to the onslaught of violence in Palestine in front of a council that openly and unapologetically condones this genocide, this is my duty as a human. Number two, I am addressing my town, the place I was born and grew up in, the place my family established roots in, and the place I hope one day we as allies of the Palestinian people can be safe to express our support and solidarity without being harassed, doxxed, attacked, and threatened for doing so. I will not stop talking about Palestine in every place that hopes to be free from tyranny and oppressive systems. There are several Teaneck residents who run public social media accounts who have made it their mission to mention my name and slander me every single day. Their objective is clear. I want to say on the record that I am not in any way suicidal. I have no
Please don't interrupt.
myself. If any harm comes to me or my children, I want it on the record and for everyone in chambers and online to be witnessed that I am being threatened and that any harm that comes to me that results from this will not be an accident. There are 3 current council members who know and are complicit in the violence my family and I have faced here in this town for decades, simply for being supporters of Palestine. You will face your reckoning. I will not be silenced. I refuse for my children and other Black and brown children who advocate for Palestine to be harmed just because you dehumanize anyone who stands up for Palestine in this town. This town does not belong to just one type of person. It belongs to everyone. I will not be silenced. Free Palestine.
Paula Rogovin. Ooh, be careful, Paula.
Paula Rogovin, Teaneck resident. I'm speaking on behalf of One Town, One Vote. One Town, One Vote calls on the Teaneck Township Council to protect democracy by placing no limitation on the duration of good and welfare in order to assure that everyone who wants to speak gets a chance to speak, whether in person or on Zoom. Our second statement from One Town, One Vote. One Town, One Vote continues to believe that subcommittees are designed to avoid public scrutiny, and we again recommend that they be replaced with open work sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rogovan. Doug, someone on Zoom? Bless you.
I am bringing in Michelle. Michelle, please unmute whenever you are ready. State your name for the record. Michelle, whenever you're ready. I'll give it 1 second here. Zoom's. Hang on. Michelle, whenever you're ready, please unmute.
Maybe we should go on to the next person on Zoom.
Michelle. Bringing in Adam Westman. Michelle, please raise your hand again. We'll try to get you in. Bringing in Adam Westman. Please hold as he becomes a panelist. Adam, whenever you're ready, please unmute.
Hey, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir. 3 minutes.
Okay, Adam Weissman, Teaneck resident. First, regarding the truncated good and welfare, it's absurd to expect community members to sign into Zoom at 6:30 p.m. to avoid being locked out of an overcapacity Zoom room, wait an hour and a half for the meeting to start, raise their hand at the start of good and welfare, only to then be denied the ability to address their elected officials and fellow community members because our council members can't be bothered to listen to the views of the people they represent. I've attempted to participate in good and welfare at every meeting for months by Zoom, and have only been able to on the occasions when good and welfare wasn't cut off with people still waiting to speak. At the last meeting, I came down to council to speak in person after watching on Zoom, concerned that I would be prevented from speaking yet again. And now I have the distinction of being the first person cut off from speaking to good and welfare while in the room. Given one council member's snide comment about solving world peace, it is hard not to interpret this as a decision made on the basis of the expected content of my speech rather than timing concerns. If the meetings are running late, hold your closed sessions on Monday and then invite in community participation at a reasonable hour on Tuesday. Or maybe council members could leave more time for community members to speak rather than wasting our time by reciting pre-written Islamophobic, anti-Arab, racist screeds off their laptops that we can read a few days later as opinion pieces in the Jewish link or on their Instagram stories anyway. Also, if we're going to privilege attendees in the room over remote attendees, we should institute measures to increase accessibility, like requiring masking to protect immunocompromised community members and having ASL interpreters so members of the deaf community won't have to read captions off their phone for the entire meeting. We allow religious leaders both in person and remote to speak at the beginning of good and welfare. We can extend the same consideration to people with disabilities that make in-person attendance difficult or impossible. We should also make the list of people whose hands are raised public so we can monitor for bias in the order in which people are chosen to speak. And we should also give privileged speaking spots to people who are cut off from speaking at previous meetings to ensure that people aren't prevented from speaking month after month. Second, I want to address the absurdity of our town passing an Arab Heritage Month resolution while we are on record supporting Israel's genocidal assault on Gaza, having raised not a single word of formal objection to months of war crimes, to the targeted destruction of mosques, churches, and universities, a campaign of cultural destruction conducted in tandem with the slaughter of thousands of children, the deliberate destruction of Gaza's healthcare system, and an engineered famine. Israel has now made it clear that it is uninterested in negotiations and fully committed to enacting its final solution for Gaza in Rafah. If the Council truly meant what it said when it resolved that we look forward to a peaceful resolution ensuring the security and safety of all those residing in Israel and Gaza and the West Bank, it should pass a resolution today calling on Israel to halt its offensive, negotiate a lasting peace, and calling on President Biden to cancel all weapons sales to drive home the point that we need peace now, ceasefire now. Finally, as the descendant of a Holocaust victim, I suggest we scrap the farce of a Holocaust memorial. When our school board is considering limiting our genocide curriculum to only address the Holocaust and not other genocides, when we center our high school students from echoing the views of the UN Special Rapporteur on Gaza that a genocide is taking place, when a woman is violently dragged out of our council building for alerting us to the ongoing mass murder of children, it is clear that we are only interested in a Holocaust memorial to pander to one community, but reject the notion that the only appropriate response to genocide of any people is never again.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you. Someone on this side who hasn't spoken yet? Anyone? If not, Mr. Rose.
Howard Rose, still live in Teaneck. The person who spoke before me, there were some good points that were made. I wish I could have followed it better because he squeezed 5 minutes of time into 3, and I couldn't quite follow all of it. Decorum. I've spoken about this over the, I was going to say years, over the last few decades in council. I'm very appreciative that the person who was sitting in front of me had a sign held up, block my vision. And when I said, please don't block my vision, they lowered it. That's appropriate. I see a number of people here who are very passionate about their concerns, and I respect that and I understand that. But I am concerned that part of the right for freedom of speech is to not interrupt a meeting nor disallow someone else from being at a meeting. And when a sign is raised above your head, you're blocking the people behind you, and that's inappropriate and discourteous. We're becoming a world forum here, and I've spoken about that before also. Council really bestowed that upon themselves, and I don't know that you can undo resolutions that are of concern to people or improve upon them at certain times, but I think you have to give more thought into what's going on. Look at this audience behind me. There's people with very valid concerns that are expressing them here that I'd like to see them express them outside of this room instead. But that's a hard thing to sway people into doing, and I recognize the difficulty. Where do we go from here? How do we get it together? How do we get people who are holding the signs together with the people who are not holding the signs to start discussing how we can improve the situation? I don't know if we have the power to increase the world situation, but damn it, I hope we have the power to increase Teaneck's situation. That's where my concern is. It's immediate. I follow world news to a certain degree, but you know what? I follow Teaneck to a much greater degree. I go to a lot of meetings. I speak at a lot of meetings. I'm concerned about meetings. I speak to people not at meetings, discussing what their thoughts are with what's going on. And it's a good vantage point to have, speaking with people, which gets us back to good and welfare. How can you possibly exclude residents from good and welfare who have been waiting? That's been mentioned by several people already. It's not just inappropriate. It's just downright discord that you're sowing. People are angry about it. They're concerned about it. They express their concerns about it, yet it's approaching 12 o'clock and we'll close the meeting. I understand that's a concern to certain council members, and I appreciate their need for time at home and with family. Nevertheless, they've taken on a position of importance.
Thank you,
Make sure
Mr.
you do it well.
Rose. Someone on Zoom?
I have Amanda. Please feel free to unmute and state your name for the record, Amanda.
Hi, yes, I am a Teaneck resident, a longtime Teaneck resident, and I just kind of wanted to speak about and echo the recognition of Nurses Appreciation Week and Teachers Appreciation Week. But as I'm thinking about that, I'm specifically thinking about how over 150 nurses in Gaza have been murdered by the Israeli soldiers since October as they're doing their due diligence in caring for their people, many of which are their actual family members as they come in as patients. How hospitals have been mass graves and schools have become centers for refugees and are still attacked and destroyed by the Israeli government. I want to also speak about AAPI month, since that was also mentioned, as its recognition and celebration is up for discussion. Yes, it's AAPI month, so we must recognize that the gendered and racialized field that nursing is, with many of our nurses being Filipino, are coerced into diaspora through U.S. imperialism. That Filipino diaspora can see their families amongst the Palestinian families because it's a US-backed government and Israeli weapons that are murdering their beloved communities. It's AAPI month, which makes it very appropriate that as Asians and as Asian diaspora, we see our history and our families mirrored in the images of Palestinian families violated and obliterated. It's AAPI month, so we must reckon with the ways that Vietnamese and Korean diaspora carried the mangled memories of US-backed wars on their soil as America carved up their countries and set arbitrary borders that tore families apart. It's AAPI month So we must reckon with the ways that Indian Muslims in diaspora have heard the same Hindutva-styled anti-Muslim bigotry being parroted by Zionists in this very town time and time again, and laying bare the connections between both fascist nationalist ideologies. It's AAPI month, and so it would be a failure to history's leave out that Asian diasporic history is rooted in anti-imperialist struggle, and that struggle is very much alive and well today in Teaneck. Thank you.
Sir?
Good evening, council members, mayor. My name is Muhammad Dawood, Imam Muhammad Dawood. I'm an imam, yes, and I'm also a New York City chaplain, also an author of the book, We Fundamentalists. In my book, I talk about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In my lessons from my teachers about 35 years ago, and when they would teach me about monotheism, one of the key lessons to learn from Sheikh bin Baz, the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia, he taught me on my first day 35 years ago. Justice is the best evidence of faith. Justice. I also teach and counsel and talk to many of my Muslim brothers and sisters here in Teaneck, New York, New Jersey, in the mosque, in Dula Usla. And many of them have said basically, we disagree. We do not wish to have this Holocaust memorial wall built on public grounds. And that is true. They have a right. No one ethnic group has a monopoly over everybody else, especially if we're talking about public grounds. No. They have told me that basically if this Holocaust memorial wall is built, they will destroy this wall. It will lead to big problems, like the Berlin Wall if we brought down. Just recently, the Prime Minister of Israel has been indicted for war crimes. He's a war criminal. Why? Because he had denied people food, water, and medicine. Just as the Nazis have denied the food and water and medicines to other people, their own Jewish neighbors, these Jewish neighbors in Palestine have denied the Palestinian people the food, water, and medicine. Yes, he is a war criminal. And just as the Nazis were war criminals, now the Palestinians. It's amazing. 2 generations, and they have forgotten that lesson of humanity, human rights, equal rights, justice, and due process of law. They have forgotten that. And for that reason, I agree with many of my Muslim brothers and sisters, there shall be no Holocaust memorial wall.
Your time
I'm
is up,
sorry.
sir. Thank you. Doug,
Thank you.
someone on Zoom?
We have Michelle trying again. Please unmute. Whenever you are ready, Michelle, I see you're unmuted. Maybe there's an issue with your microphone. Michelle, I will come back to you. I am bringing in Sherry Ann.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, 3 minutes.
All right. My name is Sherry Hanid. I'm a lifelong Teaneck resident. I just want to recognize Ms. Ventimiglia. I don't know you, but I'm a sister in nursing. So I thank you for your service to our community. And I don't think that we can overstate it enough. The passion, intelligence, hard work, sweat, tears, everything, holding in your urine for hours, caring for others and putting their needs before yours every day we're on the floor. So I thank you for everything you've done. And I only hope to be half the nurse that you are. At the same time, I'd also like to acknowledge that nurses in this country work within a flawed system. Medical staff work within a flawed system. And as flawed as that system is, at least we have one. It only makes me think of the nurses around the world, in my motherland of Egypt, who don't have a system, in Palestine, who don't have a system to work within, who go every day to do their job, to put others' livelihood before their own. And yet we're vilifying them. And yet we don't recognize them. And yet we don't put them on a pedestal as they need to be. So I want to take my time right now and acknowledge them for doing, as our township manager said, God's work. I also want to thank the council member for bringing forth the ALS resolution. And I want to ask if it will just be a pretty resolution just for words, or if we're actually going to do some fundraising on this, because I have had personal loss by ALS, and it is awful to watch someone who is full of life slowly and painfully become a shell of a person that they are. And then eventually you are almost glad that mercifully they're able to go because they were suffering in their body. So I want to know if there's anything that's going to be done to raise funds for ALS within the town, because I'd love to help with that. Again, because of the personal loss that I had endured. Lastly, I just want to support Councilwoman Belcher for the compliance officer, the idea of a compliance officer. I don't know that it will bring about more policing, but I want to say, I don't think that it would be called about frivolous things. Back in 2014, I was 6 months pregnant. We had a lot of snow. My neighbors helped me shovel. They didn't call the police on me. They didn't do anything like that to me. So I think neighborliness, if that's a word, is still around and is still alive and well. And I would hope that us neighbors wouldn't be doing this on frivolous things, but more of a sanitation and more of an actual need for things. And I would hope that the compliance officer would
Miss.
take that
Thank
into
you, Miss.
consideration.
Your time is up, ma'am. Someone on this side who hasn't spoken yet? Sir? Yes, you, sir, in the blue shirt. Oh, sorry, I was calling on him. I didn't see your hand go up. I'm sorry.
Sean Hirschhorn, Teaneck resident. Council and fellow residents, I'd like to discuss something very thoughtful and interesting that one of our council people said at the end of last meeting. I think all of us should really take it to heart. At the last council meeting, the tree ordinance was discussed.
Please, if you could not interrupt so that we can hear. We're not going to interrupt you, so please, ladies and gentlemen, please, if we can just focus on what he's saying. Sorry about that.
At the last council meeting, the tree ordinance was discussed and eventually approved by all council members. There were approximately 10 to 12 people who spoke out with concerns on the tree ordinance, not one of whom advocated to vote no on the ordinance, the majority of whom asked for more dialogue with residents, that the ordinance be postponed for further discussions and clarifications. The reason I myself asked for a postponement of the ordinance, so conversations could take place, details could be ironed out. Did the mic go? Oh. So that the ordinance can be written and passed with the best interest of residents and town. For example, the ordinance includes application fees ranging from $50 per tree to $200 per tree, with penalties and fines applicable. Do any of you have a clear understanding of how that works? There are requirements to plant replacement trees. The types of replacement trees, though, are not listed in the ordinance. There was no study listed on the ordinance or mentioned at the meeting that discussed expected turnaround time for permits or inspections. There's also a strange clause that reads, and I quote, "The Department of Public Works will maintain on file a list of non-acceptable trees that may be used when determining the species type and diversity of replacement trees to be used." Have you seen such a list? It wasn't in the ordinance. Does it even exist? The ordinance was voted on and passed unanimously by council. At the end of Good and Welfare at the meeting, the council person talked about how residents feel the council is not listening, called out other members of the council for not listening. I'd like to point out the councilperson's statements and actions did not practice what they preached. Rules for thee and not for me. The councilperson in a span of a few hours blatantly ignored residents' concerns, voted for the unclear and strangely worded ordinance, and then had the audacity to criticize other council people for not listening to residents. I'm talking about a Teaneck issue, a Teaneck tree ordinance, not something out of town. The problem is not whether you're listening or not. The problem is whether you and your actions are uniting or untying Teaneck. The difference of united and untied is where you put the I, where you put yourself. To that council person, I ask you, are you and your actions actually uniting or untying Teaneck? I am running for TDMC in District 19 on the June 4th primary. Please go out to vote. I believe that Teaneck as a whole needs to get back to being united, and I intend to try to do that within my community and my district. I ask residents of District 19 to vote for Hirshhorn and Wasserman for TDMC and urge all of us to be conscious
going
and aware
first.
of our actions and statements.
Thank you, sir. Someone on Zoom, Doug?
Michelle, please unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Michelle. We got you in. You got 3 minutes.
Okay. I am here today as a Teaneck resident, and I would like to read out names of Palestinians that have been killed. Some might say that this is not a Teaneck issue. Some might say, let's only talk about things that happen in Teaneck. Well, for everyone who wants to know, this is a Teaneck issue. When Teaneck decided to pass a resolution saying, I stand with Israel, it became a Teaneck issue. For anyone who wants to say this started October 7, let me read some names of Palestinians that were murdered before October 7. Mohammed Salim, 15 years old, shot in the back. Mohammed El Tamimi, June 5th, 3 years old, shot in the head while riding in the car with his father. Maram, 2 years old, body pulled from rubble. Azam, age 15, shot. Ayman, age 23, shot. Azmi, bad man, July 2023, age 16, body pulled from rubble. Hamza, July 2023, age 6, killed while playing in the sand at the beach. Nariman Ghafour, July 2023, 18 months old. Yasmin Matouk, 4 years old. These are some of the names of Palestinians that were murdered before October 7. For anyone who ever wants to question the numbers, for anyone who ever wants to say we're reading out the names of alleged Palestinians that were killed, they're not animals. They're not numbers. They're actual people who had dreams and had families. Since October 7, Israel has killed 1 child every 10 minutes. Remember that number. And I would like to end by asking everyone in chambers to raise their hand if they are against this genocide.
Are you done, ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you. Rob Kwan? Good to go, sir. 3 minutes.
Good evening, council. My name is Roberto Kwan. I'm a lifelong Teaneck resident, over 40 years. Mic's not working? Okay. I'm also an attorney in town. I have my practice here in town, and I'm going to speak about a slightly more mundane matter, but a matter that's important to the residents on Cranford Place. This council will be considering a measure later on this evening for a parking restriction on the south side of Cranford Place, and I just wanted you to hear it from me, and I know that I speak for my fellow residents on Cranford Place. This measure, we signed a petition, and that was supported overwhelmingly by the affected residents, if not unanimously. And the reason why it is needed is because currently we have a situation where there's parking on both sides of Cranford, both on the north side and on the south side being the resident side. And when you have parking on both sides of the street, there are events that are happening at the Teaneck High School football field that are generating an immense amount of traffic. And now the traffic is unable to flow in both directions because Cranford Place is a one-way street, but only during school hours, and I believe until 4 p.m. So on many weeknights, it's creating a traffic situation where the traffic just simply stops, can't flow, and we have several elderly residents on the block. And if anybody needs an emergency vehicle during these hours, the emergency vehicles will not be able to get there. So if we have a fire, we're not going to be able to get a fire truck there. we have anybody that needs an ambulance, they won't be able to get there. And this situation has been going on now for several years, and it has been, has not been addressed, and it's only getting worse. So I urge the council to support that ordinance that you will be hearing later on. And real briefly, on a matter that is related, not the same, but related, I urge the council to start looking into the use of the Teaneck High School football field, because there are events, group events that are taking place there that I believe are not sanctioned by the town, not approved by the town. There's no permits for them. And I know that when I have had to take out permits for Voti Park, there's a very strict process for that. I don't believe the same holds true for the track. And I also feel that there are residents from outside of Teaneck that are using that track. It's adding to the wear and tear of that track without proper revenue coming in. So I would urge you guys to look into that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Kwan. Someone on Zoom, Doug?
I have Chuck Powers. Please unmute whenever you're ready.
Yes, Chuck Powers. Good evening, council. There are so many things to talk about tonight that I'm going to limit myself to two specific examples of transparency in terms of what you are actually going to be voting about tonight. You have a resolution 166-2024. That is the personnel manual for the township's employees. I don't know where this new version came from. I know that the 2010 one passed by then council did not realize that they were at the same time authorizing a 4-day work week, which is, we've long since gotten rid of. But this particular new manual was put on the agenda sometime, I believe, after 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. We know it was only put there yesterday. And it is 203 pages long. It's a very complex document. I don't believe that any member of this council has actually read it. I'm absolutely certain that not more than 2 or 3 members of the public have read it. It should not be passed tonight. There is no necessity that a resolution which does not need the two council process of an ordinance. There's no justification for it being passed tonight. We need to know where it came from. We need to know what the public thinks about what it is that you are proposing there. It is not any good to put an agenda item due on the previous Thursday on the agenda, 203 pages long, not until the day before. You also have an ordinance that went on your agenda just today. I looked for it earlier today. It must have come along sometime late afternoon. This is the one where we are approving a process for setting up a 75-year lease for somebody to whom we're going to be effectively selling our bell tower to try to work ourselves out of our budget problem. If we were going to get rid of the bell tower, we should have begun this at least 10 months ago, and which should not be making us very late with our agenda and our budget this year. But most of all, we should not be seeing an ordinance to be introduced that does not get on the agenda of this council until the day of the meeting. That's your own rule. You need to follow it.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. The gentleman in the front row who got up earlier, sir, right there in the blue shirt.
Thank you, David Mirsky, Teaneck resident. So I do want to say, I know it's very short, but Mr. Kaczynski, Mr. Rowe, you guys will be sorely missed. And with that, I'm going to jump into my request for more stop signs. So I know that with Ms. Baker, that is going to be a very big traffic concern, already is, and is going to be a larger traffic concern with more cars that are going to be visiting it for various possible different reasons. So I do want to talk about the corner of Webster and Alfred, where there is that still very hard to make a left turn from Alfred to Webster. It's very hard to see around the overpass there. I know that NJDOT looked into putting a mirror there. They said no. If there is any town property where we could do something where we're still able to see around the corner to make it a lot easier inching forward into oncoming traffic to see around the corner, it's still not so great. So if we could look into finding ways to help mitigate some of the traffic there. Speaking about traffic, so moving on to Bennett, where Bennett intersects with Alpine and where it intersects with Club. I know, Mr. Kaczynski, we were talking a little bit about looking to get stop signs there. I have seen now multiple times people drive straight from Alpine into Bennett because it does feel like a direct path, even though it is a perpendicular street. So I think specifically there, as well as on Club, I have seen cars just roll right through, even though it is supposed to be a yield by nature. People are not yielding. So want to make sure that we're avoiding any accidents there. Additionally, thank you, Mr. Kaczynski, for following up with me with regards to the details on the traffic that is coming through on Club Road. 500 cars a day is a lot. So even though a stop sign or something, but if we can do maybe a speed bump or some other way to disincentivize traffic from cutting through there, that'd be very helpful. There is a light there for a reason. If people could use it, that'd be most appreciated. Additionally, I do want to make mention, and it has been mentioned a few times here, about keeping decorum within the council chambers and for council. I have attended other board meetings where the members there were very, I'll say, rude and patronizing, and I do appreciate all of the council members who are here, both in person and on Zoom, for your decorum through the matters and keeping us moving forward and keeping focused on town business. That is why we are here. That is why we don't want to stay late. We want to talk about town business. So I do want to thank you all for that. Again, let's try to slow down traffic on those residential streets. As mentioned before, some of them are very thin. There can be traffic congestion with parking on both sides of the street, and maintaining decorum and keeping to town matters, which is why we're all here, which is why we have all elected and you all are here to work with. So thank you all for that and appreciate responses in tandem with those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murski. Doug, someone on Zoom?
Bringing in Betty Jacobson, the third.
Hi, it's Ari Jacobson. Thank you. I'm a 22-year resident. Last time, I thanked the entire council for your equanimity in the face of criticisms and insults. And tonight, I must commend you for your bravery. Threats by jihadis and their supporters have finally hit home. First in London, a member of parliament was knifed to death. So another donned a knife-proof vest and then resigned in terror. Last month in the US, a Hamas supporter threatened the town council that we will murder you. And right here in this very chamber, another illegally brought in a weapon, along with disrupting the meeting. It takes extra bravery to protect our town citizens in light of threats to your person. We need increased security for the council. Furthermore, such threats are another reason to advance the Holocaust and slavery memorials, to teach people the danger of hatred of a group gone out of control. Meanwhile, while waiting, it was gratifying to see members of all different groups speak up collectively against the addition of more marijuana to the town. We saw an Arab Muslim, Jewish Orthodox woman, Black woman in the Northeast, all speak up for the effects of these ordinances on the town. That's what our town should be about. Once again, thank you for the efforts you take to keep us safe.
Thank you, sir. Jasmine Ray, I think I saw your hand go up, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Before I get started, since we're already talking about decorum and expectations that we have for everyone in this council, I want to also extend our expectations as constituents. If your meeting starts at 6:30, the doors open, people should be allowed in at 6:30. If the meeting starts at 7, it should start at 7, not at 8, not at 8:15, not 8:30. And then do not complain about public comment going until midnight when you are the ones that started the meeting late to dissuade people from speaking. So let's clear that up. Additionally, why are some people allowed to interrupt and others are not? I know I'm not the only one that heard when the imam was speaking, people were responding, but no shushing was happening to them. But if a voice similar to mine were to speak, we immediately are shushed, or worse, police brutality is put upon them. Now let me get into my statement. Genuine question. Do you think that public comment is a personal attack session for you guys? Because the way that you behave makes it seem that you are only interested in protecting your own egos. Let me be very clear. I do not know any of you personally, just as you do not know me. What I do know is who you are as leaders. You are my elected officials, and I engage with you as such. I state that you are racist and misogynistic based on the tone you adopt and put on full display at every meeting. Y'all turned me into your enemy the day that you enabled violence and hate speech against our children in Teaneck, when in reality, this was an opportunity to be called into community with me and my comrades by applying restorative justice solutions. Learn how to separate business and personal. Enough of your egotistical tantrums. Stop closing your ears at the first critique and instead apply suggestions. You have quickly adopted fascist ideology in the interest of saving face and covering your tushes. You make resolutions not to restoratively adhere to the wishes of your constituents, but because you think it'll either A, pacify us, or was B, a result of your own pity parties. Cut the alligator tears and get to work, or leave us with no other option than to deconstruct the institution of councilhood. No more illegal land theft events in Teaneck Township. No more abuse hurled at activists, especially student activists and Teaneck Public Schools. No more utilizing police brutality to assault and arrest our brave community members or attempt to bloody us into silence. We will only get louder. And no more racists, no violent fearmongers on Teaneck Town Council. That means your time is up, Councilwoman Hillary Goldberg, Councilwoman
Mr.
Sarah
Mayor.
Morgan, Councilman Mark Schwartz.
Please address
You, Mayor,
council as a
Provine.
whole or to me, Ms. Ray.
Time to resign. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Ray. Someone on Zoom, Doug, please.
Margaret Baker, bringing in Margaret Baker. Whenever you are ready to unmute, Miss Baker.
Can you hear me, Doug?
Loud and clear, Miss Baker. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm calling again in regards to the traffic on Decatur Avenue. I think Dean mentioned something about a stop sign being painted on the pavement. Well, when you bring the paint for the stop sign, do you think you could bring the yellow paint for the lines? I don't understand why they can't be put on the pavement. They're needed. I also have been mentioning the increase in foot traffic. Well, let me tell you what the stop signs accomplished. You put up a sign directly in the front of my house warning about a new stop sign. Then, where we had a crosswalk sign, a blinking crosswalk sign, you took it out and you put the stop sign in its place. Well, normally I don't speak to the workers, but I had my fill. I went out and asked them what they were doing. Where were they going to put the crosswalk sign? And I was told in the back of the truck. So here we are on Decatur Avenue that only had one crosswalk. Now we don't have any. You have taken that away. There's no crosswalk lines nor signs on Decatur Avenue. So you've created another problem. Where, or should I say, how long it takes someone to cross Decatur? If help is needed, I'm available. I live out here and I know my surroundings. So please feel free to ring my doorbell. I'll give you a few ideas. I live in it every day. You come out and see it 15 minutes. It doesn't work. So don't be shy. Ask for help.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Mr. Addison. Oh, actually, Mr. Addison, before you speak, Mr. Clerk, I make a motion to extend the meeting to 11:30.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Sorry about that, Mr. Addison.
No problem. Ray Addison, Teaneck. I commend you all for taking all of the insults that's hurled against you. But I also am concerned about the insults that you hurl against us, because it seems as though that sometimes you don't listen, or you listen, you hear us, but you don't listen, and you don't respond. It seems as though that some of Washington, D.C. has crept into the little town of Teaneck, where you have a council person would threaten the other council members if you vote for a certain ordinance that he will put your names and telephone numbers on mailouts. That's a strong tactic. That's not good. Yes, I'm up here every time talking about a compliance officer. A compliance officer is not a nuisance or cop. A compliance officer is here to help the township of Teaneck and the residents of Teaneck to keep their properties, their commercial properties up to par. We continually talk about Cedar Lane. I continue to say that Cedar Lane is a place that is discovered if you make the wrong turn. But when you make a turn on Teaneck Road from Bergenfield to Route 4 is where you see Teaneck. The northeast section of Teaneck has been not taken care of the way it should be, because you can find garbage on the streets. You can find that the grass are not cut. You can find signs are not taken care of. The stores are not as well taken care of because there's no compliance officer to make sure that these things are done. You go to other towns and you see compliance officers. They're not necessarily full-time employees, but they're there to make sure that someone wants to move to their town because of what they see. So we could sit back with our heads buried in the sand, but Teaneck will be an afterthought. No one will want to move to Teaneck. And I know because I do business in Teaneck. And they're not wanting to move to Teaneck because the Teaneck is not living up to its reputation by doing the things that they were supposed to be doing. We have to invest into Teaneck, turn the dollars over in Teaneck, make sure that our town, all sections of Teaneck, is represented. You all were voted into office to represent Teaneck, not A Teaneck, not B Teaneck, but Teaneck. I realize this is campaign season, silly season. We understand that. So we know what's going on. But you did something tonight that's not right. You allowed a political 30-second commercial.
Addison.
So just be prepared.
Thank
When
you,
other people
Mr.
come
Addison.
up to make their announcement.
Your time is up, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Addison. Doug.
Bringing in Miss Young, Sandra Young.
Chandra Young, Irvington Road, Teaneck. Just want to say, as elected officials of Teaneck, we elect you to govern, and part of your job is to educate the residents because you're making decisions on behalf of the residents, and you want to be their voice, but you have to educate residents, and it's very important. And I'm really trying to figure out why we don't have workshops therefore we can understand what exactly does a code enforcement, a compliance officer does. Some people are saying code enforcement, some people are saying compliance officer. People are speculating what this person does. Who decides on a description of this job? Not us, the residents. Is this a state regulated job? These are things in the workshop that you can educate us on so that we're not just coming to the mic saying things to be somewhat divisive. We have to come together and make these decisions and move forward and actually get work done. Another thing, if we had workshops, we would understand why our budget is late. I'm very, very concerned about the budget. That is something that, I'm spending time trying to understand. I think we should have started the process earlier. I think we should change our budget process actually, so that we can be ahead of the game instead of behind. And if we had a workshop, we can talk about this cell tower or whatever we're trying to sell so that residents understand, do we have a lease already, or can we lease these out and keep them? And then so that we don't ever leave our income, some would have some type of residual income. Like, these are different options, and maybe they're not options, but if we had workshops, we could get that out there and we don't have people coming to the podium just saying things. Also, does this code enforcement officer coincide with the master plan? That would be nice to discuss in a workshop, because if they are, are they like a parking enforcement? Are they going around on their own, or things like that? And I think that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Someone on this side who hasn't spoken yet, sir, over there. Yes, you, sir. I know, but I want to get some people who haven't spoken yet tonight.
Good evening, Teaneck Council. Hey guys, take a deep breath. It's gonna be okay. Promise. My name is Golan Elias. I'm a longtime Teaneck resident. I wanted to take a few minutes today to talk about Ordinance 11-2024 about chicken hens. I know that's off topic from everything else we've heard. Firstly, I want to say how much I like Jesse Leon, the Chicken King of Teaneck. He brings, hold on, I don't think you're going to like the rest of this. He brings a certain levity to these meetings, whether it be dressing up as a chicken, bringing his kids to speak. I personally think we should give him the keys to the township if something like that exists. Secondly, I've stood here before and told you about my love for chicken. I love fried chicken. I love grilled chicken, dark, white. I love all chicken equally. With those, you're welcome. With those two statements on the record, I have read through the proposed ordinance and I'm against it for the following reasons. First of all, for those of you that remember, the health officer came and spoke at a previous council meeting and to the community prior to the last vote on chickens. Some of those concerns have been alleviated by the ordinance, but many of them have not. And the current requirement for the 25 feet from an occupied dwelling, I think should be 25 feet from our property lines. The concern being that even with all the new health requirements in the ordinance, the smell and potential predator concerns brought by the public are not properly being reduced. More predators will be present even if they can't access the chickens, and the smell of the chickens will permeate into the backyards of our neighbors. Please think about how this can impact all of us, and please don't pass this ordinance. Like I said, when I started, I really like Mr. Leon. I'm sure he's going to take an opportunity to speak after I do. And I love chicken. I just don't want chickens in our backyards or properties. I also just want to take a minute to address the divisiveness in this town. There are a number of events in the next 45 days, right? We have Memorial Day, we have a Juneteenth walk, we have July 4th, all these events were talked about. I think 6 of you can go to your constituents and say, guys, go to these events as a township person and introduce yourself to somebody that you don't know. And I think that will go a long way. I think it's something that could help bring the town together and stop us from saying, I'm on this side, you're on that side. It just gives us all an opportunity to meet in a very calm, relaxing environment, not in chambers, not in a board meeting, not in a council meeting, not in a planning board meeting, just meet with your families and friends and get together. So please take the next 2 months. This is for all the residents. This is for the town, for the council. Please take the next 2 months to look for opportunities to help us heal and build. And finally, I just wanted to thank the township manager. Please reconsider retiring until your hairline looks like mine. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Someone on Zoom, Doug?
I swear it's not planned. We have Jesse Leon.
It was serendipity. Jesse Leon, Teaneck resident. I think you all know why I'm here. I don't have any gimmicks tonight. I don't have a cute child. I looked at the agenda and kind of figured this would run way past his bedtime, and I feel very vindicated in that decision. I want to thank you for putting this on the agenda finally again, and for making it look like maybe it will actually pass in June. I think that my timing right after Golan is also serendipitous, just because I can respond a little bit more directly. This ordinance was written in tandem with the health officer after her meeting. The only difference from the last ordinance that was raised that was written with her was we took out the unnecessary advisory board that would just create extra level of red tape and unnecessariness. But there is a lot of regulation in there to protect the chickens, to protect neighbors. There is mandatory re-inspections at the health officer's discretion on renewals. There is so much in there that will make sure that smells and any nuisances are abated quickly. I won't say noise because chicken hens don't generate the kind of noise that's actually a nuisance. And roosters have always been banned under every draft ordinance that we've always suggested. So before anyone comes here and says rooster, no roosters, never. We don't want to wake up our neighbors at 4 a.m. We want eggs. I'm excited to maybe actually finally push this boulder up the hill, and I really hope you'll let me, unless you expect me to come for the next 3 years and talk more about chickens and dress up and bring you in, although, you know, he'll age up and get a little bit less cute. Never to me, though. So, you know, I just beg you, yes to chickens. Let's try it out finally. Let's give the townspeople something they've been asking for quite a while. Before me, I was the 3rd or 4th iteration of this. I've just been the most persistent since. So it's time to try it out. It's time to let the people have a little bit more freedom on their own properties to create wholesome, healthy food on their properties that they know the entire supply chain of. They have control over all the inputs, that they can create the most ethical eggs that they can possibly imagine, all within this wonderful town. And it's been such a unifying community-making venture. I've met people that I never would have imagined meeting in this town. I know that, you know, I have a Facebook group that once the political side of this is done, it's going to turn into like a, hey, let's trade tips. Let's, you know, I have this. Do you have this? I have some extra eggs. Do you want some? But not for sale because sales are strictly prohibited. So again, it's a great ordinance. It's the best we've gotten, I think. And it's time to pass it. So thank you. I'll be back in June, maybe with a gimmick or maybe with a child. But tonight it's just me, and I want to thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leon. The young lady right there.
Hi, my name's Abital. I've lived in Teaneck since I was 4 years old. I'm now 23 years old. I didn't have something prepared for tonight. I know that people are sick and tired of hearing about what's happening in Israel and Gaza. But I do think that when people spread disinformation and they give life to old hate tropes about Jews in this very room and also within our town, that it does that we do need to talk about this, that it does apply to our town. I was shocked to hear some of the statements made tonight to compare basically all of us to Nazis. You can just say Jews. You don't have to, you know, hide it. I know we all know what you're talking about. Was just beyond me. And then also to compare a potential Holocaust memorial wall to the Berlin Wall was also beyond me. And incredibly hateful. You can care about Palestinian statehood without invoking old hate tropes and hating, just spreading hate to your neighbors. I wish I could give everyone here a little bit of a history lesson because people here, I think a lot of people here maybe don't necessarily fully understand historical context surrounding this conflict. If people are going to say this is not politically correct at this point, I really don't care. Palestinian leadership, Arab leadership had the opportunity to have a sovereign state in 1937 when they were offered 80% of the land in the Peel Commission. They rejected it. And then in 1947, I saw a flyer about the Nakba. Yes, a lot of Palestinians were displaced from their homes during that, but that happened because of Arab leadership all attacked Israel. They started that war, and that was the result of that war because they lost it. I think that
Please don't interrupt.
I think that disinformation.
Interrupt you, so please.
Disinformation is a huge issue. It's a growing problem in our society, especially amongst young people. It's incredibly concerning, especially with the proliferation of TikTok and other social media sites. I just picked up this book from the Teaneck Library tonight. It's called East West Street on the origins of genocide and crimes against humanity. So since you all care so much about what's going on now and care so much and seem to always want to compare what's going on to the Holocaust, I would implore you to read this. I'm going to go home and start it tonight. I'll let you know how it is. I think that we all owe each other respect and to spread. And just again, I don't have anything written really, but I guess yeah. My last point. Sorry, this is a little bit all over the place. My last point, I guess, was the comment that was made by a religious leader. One group doesn't get to have a monopoly on a town, especially on public property. I promise you that if the Jews, because that's what you meant, had a monopoly on this town, then my younger sister would not have been treated the way she's been treated at the public high school for the last 7.5 months. Thank you.
Someone on Zoom, Doug?
Bringing in Mohammed, please unmute whenever you're ready. I'm sorry, young miss. What was your name? I missed that.
For the record, what was your name, ma'am?
Thank you. And Mohammed, whenever you're ready, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Muhammad. I'm a Teaneck resident for more than 15 years now, 15, 17 years now. What's happening since last October, I feel like this council is not good for the Teaneck, the unity. I'm here since 17 years. I've never seen such a ununited Teaneck. From my side, I would recommend all the Teaneck people to vote them out. We shouldn't be voting for them. They have created so much hatred between us for something is not in our control. What we are trying to do is wasting our time every public meeting. They're allowing other people to come in from different town and say bad things about our own town people. And they're not stopping. We should choose the right people. And I would say just vote them out. Don't vote for them. Right? I won't vote for them. If you want to bring a change, you have a vote. Do it. Also, on the same note, what happened last meeting, how come we don't have a woman officer in the meeting? Anybody can be riled up. Anybody can misbehave. How come there's always a male officers, not a woman officers, female officers available in the township meeting? How come what happened last meeting was able to go like that? Where the officer was misbehaved with the lady, the way it was. I don't know what to say, but vote them out. This is your opportunity. Do it. Thank you.
Someone on this side, the gentleman right there.
My name's David Siegel. I'm a Teaneck resident for about 30 years. I actually coach softball. My team won 8-6 today, so I'm pretty happy. And I'm looking forward to, after I finish speaking, going to have some dinner. I want to thank you folks for everything that you do. It's amazing that you have to be here so late every time, and you really serve the community. I haven't gotten much love, so I'd like to just extend my thanks. Also, considering Memorial Day is coming up, I'd like to thank all of our veterans for all the service that they've given to our country. I'd like to talk about ADUs. It's a subject that I've actually studied a bit, and I think it's very important for the community, for any community, because housing costs are so high, the issue of aging in place. I personally recently downsized and sold my home, and had we had ADUs, I perhaps might have kept it. I might have been able to do any, either sell the home and stay in a unit or take in a tenant. The one thing I would suggest is, and you may have done this, I don't know, But there are a number of cities in Jersey that have incorporated it to see how it's working. I know Princeton, for example, was forced to, the concept is typically that you have two people in the home, one of which is an owner, one of which is a tenant, and that kind of controls to make sure that you have folks who are a little more control. In Princeton, I believe that they needed, because of litigation, they had to allow for the property to be not requiring an owner. So it became two investment tenants, two investment units. So it's just, I would suggest that as you're considering the ADUs, to make sure and see how it's worked in other municipalities and see how we can make sure that whatever we incorporate here takes into consideration any issues that might have been. So I'd like to thank you, and I'll take a
Thank you,
nap.
sir. On Zoom, Doug.
Jonah Sims.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name's Jonah. I'm a non-resident, and I apologize. I don't have a camera on my computer, so I won't be joining on camera. But I am a non-resident, but I did attend last council meeting virtually, and if I didn't have to travel tomorrow, I would be attending tonight in person. And last council meeting was very disturbing to me. I am from New Brunswick, and I'm Jewish, and I am very disturbed that the council has weaponized Jewish identity to promote Zionism, to promote hatefulness, and to promote the use of excessive police force against members of our community of color, members of our Muslim community, and overall hate in not just the Teaneck community, but we see it all over. We see it all over New Jersey. We see it all over the country. It doesn't stay in Teaneck. Hate spreads everywhere. And it was very disturbing to see that. And lastly, I'd just like to say that I was on for almost 5 hours, and I was one of the 6 or so people left on Zoom that we never got around to. And when it was brought up that everyone should get a chance to speak who has been waiting 5 hours to speak, one of the council members mentioned that we have to get on with business. Part of your business is listening to the people, listening to your residents, listening to your non-residents, letting people speak. That is part of your business. That is what, when you ran, that is part of the job. So if you don't believe that's part of the job, you need to resign, because that is not what your job is. Your job is to listen to the people. It is not a handful of people making decisions. It is making decisions that is best for everybody and listening to everybody in order to make those decisions. Thank you.
Come on this side, right there.
Hi, my name is Ziad. Before I enter my prepared statement, I find it important to correct the record. Earlier, a councilwoman chose to speak a false accusation in naming a resident and saying they threatened them. This was a lie. No such threat was ever issued your way. And this is just like the lie you created that a young Muslim woman threatened to blow up the town. You should be ashamed of the lies you speak at this podium. I'll get back to what I originally planned on saying now. My name is Ziad. I'm a Teaneck resident. I was raised in Teaneck. I was a student of Thomas Jefferson Middle School, Teaneck High School. For much of my life, I represented this township with pride. I'm a constituent of this town, and by every definition, am entitled to representation by this town council. I shouldn't have to lead with all this, but given the events of the last 6 months, I, like many of my neighbors in Teaneck, find myself pleading with this council to find its morality and to finally listen to your constituents. On October 17th, this council opened the floodgates for all the division in this community by passing a resolution which failed to recognize Palestinian life. We have been pleading with this council to recognize our pain and suffering, but instead you have chosen to double down and escalate the tension in this community in your words, actions, and policy decisions. Last council meeting, the town's police force, at the direction of the mayor, was violently assaulted a Black Muslim woman for engaging in peaceful protest. This township continues to explore options for silencing their constituents, whether it be during these council meetings or when we engage in peaceful protest on the streets. I've stated this before on Zoom, but in light of the current circumstances, I find it necessary to restate. When you direct your energy toward silencing our voices rather than listening to our valid concerns about the ongoing genocide in Palestine, not only are you failing as supposed leaders in this community, you are taking steps toward fascism. Need I remind you, you are not lifetime appointees on this council, and we, your constituents, will not back down because we recognize your true nature. When you are up for re-election, we will not be casting our ballots for genocide deniers who resorted to fascist policies in an effort to silence their opposition. I find it necessary to state, for the record, this council meeting started an hour late. The mayor and council should consider that before ending good and welfare early because you have work to do, that we all have work to do, and yours begins with listening. I shouldn't have to remind you all that you serve on this council as public servants. We all took time out of our day because we are concerned residents of this town. Many of us had to shift work around and even find childcare because we felt motivated to speak in this meeting. For you to end good and welfare early is selfish and just another attempt at silencing us. And never forget, the more you try to silence us, the louder we will be.
Someone on Zoom, Doug?
Jacqueline Fuela. Please unmute, state your name for the record.
Yes, this is Jacqueline Fury, and can everybody hear me?
Loud and clear, 3 minutes.
Thank you. First, I would like to state that I am a resident of New Jersey. I have lived there since I was born 44 years ago. I have never seen this type of anti-Semitism in my life in the state of New Jersey. I will repeat this. I am neither a Jew nor an Israeli. However, what I have seen over the past 7 months are a bunch of uneducated people coming into this community, wreaking havoc. They have attacked the police officers. They have attacked hospitals. Yes, I have multiple medical degrees and I can speak on this. Tonight, to hear that someone who is Muslim would come in and state that they would take down a Holocaust memorial is beyond pathetic. I don't care whether you're Christian, Catholic, Muslim, whatever you are, you don't do that. You don't speak like that. We are to bring everyone together and stop this hate. This is disgusting and it needs to end. The Holocaust can never happen again. What is happening in Gaza is horrible. It is a war. It is nothing compared to the Holocaust. If anyone is going to state that they are going to tear down a memorial where 6 million Jews' names are going to be placed on it, that is a hate crime. That is not tolerable in this state nor in this country. So now what I suggest is, if anyone in that room is not educated on what happened during World War II or what happened when the Jews went back to their homeland, I suggest everybody contact the education departments in New Jersey and make sure that your children are getting educated. Because when I went to high school, I was educated on all of this, on the Nakba, on World War II, on slavery, on internment camps that my grandparents were placed in for being Italian American. So maybe we need to start by re-educating everybody in the state of New Jersey and stop all of this hate. And also stop aligning ourselves with terrorist organizations that have been proven by this country to be terrorist organizations. And if you live in America and chant death to America, you need to pack up and leave. This is the United States. If you don't like it, get out. If you're going to threaten any Jew, any Muslim, you need to get out. Stop with all of this hate. It is disgusting. You are all tearing this state and country apart for
Your
no
time is up,
reason.
ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Vatsky.
I have on Vansky Teaneck. I've been trying to keep track of the notes.
Please quiet in chambers so we can hear our speakers. We want folks on Zoom to be able to hear them. Thank you.
I am not full of hate. I'm full of compassion. When it comes to Teaneck and Gaza and Italy, not Italy, Israel, there is a connection here. There are people here who have suffered or connected to people who suffered, and it's hard. It's very hard to keep it just on the borders of Teaneck, all right? This is too serious, and it should be respected as that, whether it's the citizens of Teaneck or the citizens of Israel or citizens of Palestine. If we're connected, we're connected. We can't break that. It's real. What I wanted to say in addition is that government is fallible. Sorry, you're fallible. You make mistakes, and then you try and correct the mistakes, and maybe you make another mistake. We have to watch. We're impatient. What you're stuck. You got elected, and they drop a ton of stuff on you, and I'm sympathetic. Ms. Belcher, right? Is that Belcher? Yeah. She told me a very important word.
Mr. Mayor, names.
What?
Don't mind.
What?
Go right ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go right ahead.
She told me the word, what it meant, silos. All of us are in our own silo. We see the truth a certain way. We believe it. And other people see it another way. They believe it. We do have to get educated. What we've heard is partial. I keep on reading books that have been published before this happened, before October 7, and what the history said. It said we're all guilty, I guess. How much time do I have left? 40 seconds. So we've got to learn, I think we've got to learn to cool down, realize we're stuck. I have instructions, memories that other people don't have. And so we clash. But we don't want to clash because we're American. And we're here. And we've got the Bill of Rights, and people can't, all those things. I've got 17 seconds to say accidents, crashes. I had another one in front of my house today. Fortunately, no one was injured. Maybe $40,000 or $50,000 worth of cars were damaged. And
Thank you, Mr. Vasky. Your time is up, sir.
that's all right.
And Mr. Clerk, I make a motion to extend the meeting till midnight.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
I have Greg Berman. Greg Berman, you're muted.
That was totally unintentional. Thank you very much.
You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I listened to the whole meeting tonight, and I appreciate the fact that that the members of the council have to do this many times a year. I only did it today, and I had participated in listening to all the hate and hateful language that was spewed towards you, and I very much appreciate you having patience and dedication to do that. My intention tonight was actually speak about ADUs, an apolitical topic, which I have researched myself, read the text of the ordinance, and have specific comments. Since that topic has been postponed, I did want to see what the business of the council was today, and some of the issues that are interesting to people who live here and to people who care about this in our community. However, unfortunately, this meetings and public speaking sessions have become a forum for some sort of Al-Qaeda, Al Jazeera listening sessions that are translated, just a rebroadcast on the evening news now in Teaneck, New Jersey. I don't know what purpose of that really is and how many people will still keep tuning in and trying to understand what is going on in the town, and not somewhere half the world around where, people who obviously cannot read the news and or understand basic facts are taking it up on themselves to come and rebroadcast in this room. I have a concrete suggestion. I believe that the rules have been passed by the council have been that those who speak at these meetings have to identify themselves by full name and last name, and also speak on camera. I would suggest that we don't actually allow people who are not on camera and who are not fully identified with their name and address to speak at the meeting, and as well as those who are in the room should not be speaking masked. It's at the minimum is disrespectful, and the maximum, I think it is intentionally threatening. I saw that there were people in the room walking around and obviously in the outfits that are meant to be threatening, and that is not the decorum that should be allowed in this at this juncture. I am reserving my comments on ADU units for next meeting, and I hope to communicate them to you at that time, and hope to be constructive and and in a small way contribute to a better ordinances and better future of this town. And I hope that we can also avoid having the political nonsense creep into this conversation. Thank you very much for listening to me. Have a good
Thank you,
night.
sir. Mr. Berliner.
Teaneck resident, and Howard Rose, I join you in still living in Teaneck. Tom, Dean, really, no second thoughts? We really can't convince you. You only got one left. You know, the mic is still hot. By the way, if you don't want to be arrested for illegal weapons possession in a public building, don't be carrying a weapon. I mean, this should be yeah, by the way, nice sign. I appreciate it. And she did her job. She arrested someone who illegally was carrying a weapon in this building. I'm here, they're up there. We shouldn't have to worry about if someone is carrying a taser or something else. And again, if you're gonna play the game, know the rules. Don't have a taser on you when you're arrested. Couple of fun announcements. It is Memorial Day. Please feel free to join us on the green, and then for the Cedar Lane block party. In the same vein, Teaneck on May 26th will be holding their block party from 11 to 3. That's Sunday for those who don't have a calendar on them. TJSL, I know that many of you have asked. We will be opening registration on Memorial Day. TeaneckSoccer.com. Look for us at the table at the Cedar Lane Street Fair. Early bird pricing until the 4th of July. Registration will remain open August 17th. We do fill up. Please look forward to see those flyers, and please look out for us. Again, if you want to be a player, a coach, a referee, if you're a young person 13 years or older, you can get certified as a national referee. It is good part-time money. And we do also have a scholarship.
Wait, time out. Is that a middle finger? Please don't do the middle finger. You can hold up your sign, but don't do the middle finger, please. Continue, Mr. Berliner. No, I saw a middle finger, so please don't do that. Mr. Berliner, please continue.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say, I hope we can all get past that. It was nice to actually have the hearing. It did go long, but people were able to voice. Unfortunately, they didn't actually read, nor did they know what they were speaking about. So again, the agenda's out there. It's probably about 100 pages. Please read it. Please be informed. Please come out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Berliner. Someone on Zoom, Doug?
I have Heidi Fuchs. Whenever you are ready, please unmute.
Hi, good evening. Heidi Fuchs, Teaneck resident since 1972. This is my real name. This is the real me, and I am really a person who lives in Teaneck, New Jersey. Clearly, times have changed, and with it, policies and processes must evolve. I have 10 suggestions to address the decorum and safety issues currently plaguing the township meetings. Number 1, prohibit disruptors who do not abide decorum, either by refusing to stop after 3 minutes, calling out continuously, and disrespecting rules of the chamber, and that includes sirens and weapons. Number 2, bag checks to enter the building meeting. It is a government building. Number 3, there should be an officer in the room who will deal with decorum until all this unrest by agitators is over, or perhaps permanently. Number 4, no more hybrid meetings, free to pee and the like. Anyone who can go on Zoom can have their camera on. This is not a discrimination issue, and council members need to stop making it one. If you have a phone, you have a camera, you can use on the Zoom app. Number 5, If hybrid is to remain, verify ID of each speaker or deny them speaker power. Number 6, limit good and welfare to Teaneck residents unless there's a specific issue that requires someone from outside the township to join. Number 7, limit good and welfare to domestic local issues and cut off abusers. There should be a mic cut off button. Number 8, cut the microphone at 3 minutes and 3 seconds. Number 9, create a sign policy. Number 10, do not allow language or phrases that have been deemed beyond free speech. I've heard people mention about you're not listening, you're not hearing. I remember when I was raising my 4 sons, if I didn't agree with them, they thought I wasn't listening or I didn't hear them. Sometimes you just get a no. I hear you, I'm listening, but you're going to get a no. So going on and whining that you're not being heard because nobody's agreeing with you does not mean that we're not listening. Thank you so much, and let's make this town a better place. And my sign over there says Shalom, which means peace, hello, and goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fuchs. Mr. Schwartz?
Yes, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor, sorry. It's been an hour and a half of good and welfare. We've heard from dozens upon dozens of great residents, and we have about $100 million worth of contracts to start improving in the next few minutes. So I'd like to make a motion. We close good and welfare.
Second.
We have a first and a second, Mr. Clerk.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Can I ask how many people are on Zoom?
Councilwoman Belcher, we have 6 hands on Zoom.
I'm going to say no.
Councilwoman Goldberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz. Sorry, he logged off. Deputy Mayor G,
No.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes, because we have work to do. Mr. Schwartz, would you like to start us off, sir?
I actually spoke quite a bit after the hearing, so I'm going to pass, other than saying I look forward to the chicken ordinance and to Mr. Elias's comments about chickens. I know you're.
Please don't interrupt. Please don't interrupt. Have a good evening. Have a good evening. Thank you. Have a good evening. Sorry about that, Mr. Schwartz.
Mr. Elias,
Go ahead.
I understand your issues with chickens. I know some of your neighbors, you're better off with chickens. So I thank you and I look forward to tonight's vote. Thank you.
Ms. Belcher.
Okay, so I'm going to start by basically saying that Paula Rogovan, I believe that all voices should be heard during good and welfare. So thank you for your comments. Layla, I want to say that no resident should be subjected to threats or intimidation, and no one should be disrespected or feel unsafe. I want to say to my colleague, Deputy Mayor G, in the last meeting, she mentioned that her son was called the N-word. And I just want to say that I think that we really need to come to terms with some of the issues around this within our township. There's a great deal of hatred.
If you could please hold all side conversations so that we can hear Ms. Belcher, please.
The N-word is being hurled around our township like it's nothing. And that is disgusting. It is horrendous, and it must stop. Institutional racism and racist practices have been written into master plans and into development plans. So therefore, we want to ensure that we take our time to make sure that our master plan is reflective of who we are and who we claim to be. I want to say to Mr. Rose, civil disobedience is a part of our Constitution. That I agree with you, the resolution that was passed on October 17th should not have been approved. We should be about the people of Teaneck's business. I want to say to the residents on Cranford Place that spoke, we are looking into the directional issue of traffic. I also will ask our manager to look into the use of the track field in ensuring that it's permitted properly by organizations that get permits. Mr. Addison, I do agree with you. Code enforcement is not punitive, but it's a way in which we build our brand. I speak as a fellow realtor to another realtor. We must be concerned with our quality of life, and one way in which we do that is to ensure that our ordinances are simply upheld. That is what a code enforcer does. And someone else had asked, what do they do? I have asked at our town attorney simply look into it to come back with some suggestions and best practices that we can look at in terms of what would that mean for our township. Lastly, I want to say ADUs are an affordable and intergenerational style of living, and it can add great value to our township. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher and Ms. Organ.
To Sherry Ann Aid, please reach out to me about a fundraiser for ALS. I'm so happy to work on one with you. But I need you to get in touch with me. I don't have your contact information. I spoke to Mr. Kwan when he was on his way out about Cranford Place. They had to get home because of childcare. I had a problem with the timing of the ordinance from 8 to 8. I didn't understand why they wanted to close down, allow parking after 8 p.m. But he explained they only need the parking until the ban on parking on their side of the street till 8 p.m. So I'm fine with it. And I explained to him that he needs to reach out to the Board of Ed to talk about what goes on the fields. As far as the employee manual goes, to Dr. Powers, the manager and the deputy manager worked very hard on the employee manual. It's not for the public, it's for the employees. And it's from the manager and the deputy manager to for the employees. To anybody that was confused about the start time of our meetings, they start at 8 o'clock. We did not start an hour late. In discussions about the budget, Chandra Young, the reason why it's being held up is you'll see there's an ordinance we're introducing tonight regarding the cell tower. We're hoping to be able to cut taxes significantly with its sale. As far as the N-word goes, anybody whose child is called the N-word, I hope they would report it to the police and file a hate crime report. I wouldn't tolerate that. I don't think anybody should have to tolerate that. And to all the people who were here all night tonight with their signs and then got up and left before we had a chance to answer them or to speak, that was very disappointing. You know, if you're going to bring things up, then don't pile out before we have a chance to speak. That's not, there's no sincerity there. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Organ. Ms. Goldberg.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So I've been attending council meetings for a number of years now, and I've never watched a more dedicated group of advocates as those advocating for backyard chickens. Mr. Leone has worked hard to lead his group, and the ordinance being introduced tonight for the third time, I'm very excited to support. I supported it before. I supported it from the over there on that side of the dais. I don't eat chicken. I'm a vegetarian, but I don't judge people who do. So I'm very excited to see backyard chickens introduced tonight. Development affects the quality of life of all residents in town, both positive and negative. It offers residents attractive housing choices and cohesive neighborhoods and desirable shopping options, and considering the vital needs for road safety, public facilities, adequate parking, transportation, environmental impacts, as part of a big picture plan for the community. And that big picture is what's known as the master plan. Accessory dwelling units are a piece of the complex housing crisis in this country, and they are a positive addition to our housing options that will help seniors as age-friendly TNEC and AARP presented to us. That being said, we must recognize the impact of zoning and our residents and infrastructure and properly include accessory dwelling units in the new master plan so our residents' voices are included. The master plan is a social contract, which is the guide for which zoning and development is done. That social contract is where the legal foundation for our zoning ordinances arise. So when you purchase a home, you're entering into a social contract with the township and your neighbors that they're following the guidance of the master plan. So let the planning board do their very important job. I have committed to development done right, and we are in the middle of a new master plan. And when that is done, I do support ADUs. Words matter, so do acronyms. We committed to doing things right, and I intend to continue to do things right. That view hasn't changed, and I look forward to voting yes on it after the master plan. Last meeting, we recognized May as Military Appreciation Month, and at the end of this month, we end with Memorial Day. I want to thank our armed service members who are serving currently and gave their lives in order to protect our rights as Americans and the democratic values that we as a nation hold dear. Avital, I know that she left, but I wanted to thank her for her bravery for speaking tonight. She's right, education is critical, and she gave me hope. If you're listening somewhere, teal is my favorite color too, and was also the favorite color of Sarah Duker, Teaneck resident murdered by Hamas during the Intifada. 44 Americans were murdered by terrorists on October 7th. 8 Americans are held hostage by terrorists, 6 of whom are still believed to be alive. Hirsch Goldberg, Poland, Idan Alexander, Omer Nutera, Atai Chen, Segui Dekel Chen, Omer Nutra, and Keith Siegel, and 2 have been confirmed murdered Judy Weinstein and Gad Haggai, and I pray for their release every day until they're home. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Ms. G?
I just want to apologize to the people who were patiently waiting to be heard today and did not get a chance to be heard. And so in honor of them, I yield my time.
Is that all? I don't know if you can see the room, but a lot of them left. Thank you, though. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who came out tonight to speak and participate. Mr. Rockland, thank you for advocating for safe streets, and thank you for your willingness to serve on our board. Mr. Kwan, thank you for bringing up the public safety issue on Cranford Place, because this change to enhance public safety on that particular street is long overdue, in my humble opinion. Mr. Mirsky, we will look into those traffic safety concerns, so thank you for pointing that out to us. Mr. Leon, we are finally getting this done, and I am so happy to see it happening. And in an effort to keep this meeting moving along, I'm going to stop right there and ask our manager if there's anything he would like to say, Dean.
Just quick, Mr. Mayor, the employee manual, I just want to touch on that again. Tom and I worked very hard on this with our labor attorney. It's a very important document that not only protects the town, it protects the employees, their rights, what they need to do in order to file a complaint, if they want to go on military leave, donated. There's a lot of, the policy manual is a lot bigger now, because so many new employment practices have come into place since the last time we updated it. So this is a good document. Again, it protects the town, protects the employees, it tells them what they can and what they can't do. I'll take responsibility if people are offended that it was put on late. That's my responsibility. But this is an important document, and the sooner we got it on there, the better. With regards to code enforcement, that is a civil service. They call it a competitive title. We would have to contact service if we were to hire a code officer, set a salary, of course, and determine if it's going to be part-time or full-time. Full-time, of course, would involve pension contributions and the offer of health care. Can be done, but it's processed through civil service. And the last thing with the budget, again, the whole reason for the sale of the cell phone towers is to reduce our municipal tax rate by a couple points, which is very helpful. Not uncommon that municipalities are late submitting their budget. It's a problem all over the state of New Jersey. The only consequence for us is losing 1 point from best practices. We always have a surplus of at least 9. We do that. The town is also under state review, so once we submit our budget into the FAST system, the state will have to review it, and they have to approve it before everything is finalized. So the timeline right now is hopefully we'll have the process moving forward with the sale of the tower, and we sell the tower. I'm confident we're going to get good money for that. We'll award it to the highest bidder at the June meeting, and then we do the introduction of the budget in July, adoption of the budget.
Thank you, Dean, and thank you, Tom, for everything you guys do. Our next order of business is the consent agenda, and all matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature by council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If any discussion is desired by council, that particular item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Mr. Clerk, can you please read the amount of the bill list into the record?
Yes, Mayor, and just for the public council's reminder, we have the consent agenda this evening, which does include a couple sets of minutes, a couple raffles, resolutions 140 Your packets say 169, but remember it's to 171, the two resolutions we walked in this evening, and the bill list in the amount of $1,064,815.60.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Ms. Belcher?
Yeah, Mr. Clerk, can you, for the benefit of those people that have said about numbers tonight, can you just tell them what is with those resolution 140 and 170, so that for the benefit of people that may want to know? The two that you read, 70, yeah.
Absolutely, Councilwoman. Thank you. 170 and 171, just in case some people are tuning in who were not with us earlier. These were two resolutions brought forward by council this evening to be walked into the consent agenda. 170 being May as ALS month, recognizing ALS, and 171 is our Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month resolution. Councilwoman Belcher, thank you for that question.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you, Ms. Belcher. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Is it first?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to point out and thank you. I know everyone said goodbye to our manager and deputy manager, but tonight's consent agenda has years upon years of extensions on our labor contracts, orchestrated by not our labor attorney, but by our town manager, that will give our hardworking, dedicated staff and our taxpayers budget surety, financial surety for years to come. So I just felt it important to pull that, not pull it, but thank you before we vote on it.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz.
So that was a first from our mayor and a second from Councilwoman Goldberg for our consent agenda for all the matters aforementioned. Councilman Schwartz.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes on all, with the pull on the bill list of 24-02141 and 24-01953. That's a total of $475 for multiple ads in the Jewish Link for public notices.
Thank you, sir, for that. And we are on to Councilwoman Belcher.
Yes on the bills list, and yes to resolution 170 and 171.
And we're also doing the whole consent agenda here. So I need your vote on all those other resolutions and minutes also. This is the consent.
Just the consent, okay.
Yeah, this is just the consent agenda. Our resolutions, our minutes, our raffles.
Okay, I'm good with all of them.
Understood, all good. Yes to all from Councilwoman Belcher. Councilwoman Goldberg.
Yes to all.
Councilwoman Organ.
Yes to all.
Deputy Mayor G.
Yes.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
All adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Our next order of business is our introduction of ordinances. Mr. Clerk, can you please read the title of those ordinances into the record?
Yes, sir. Last but not least, we have our introduction of ordinances this evening. First up, we have ordinance number 10-2024, amending section 36-14 of Division 2 of Article 2 of Chapter 36 Titled Traffic of the Township Code, respecting parking on a portion of Cranford Place. We have ordinance number 11-2024, adopting rules and regulations related to chicken hens. We have ordinance number 12-2024, adopting rules and regulations related to retail, electronic smoking, or vaping establishments. Last but not least, we have ordinance number 13-2024, authorizing the sale of an easement over certain property, a portion of block 4703, lot 4, as shown on the tax map, owned by the township, not required for public purposes, together with an assignment of rights contained within the cell tower leases on the subject property, layman terms, the cell tower ordinance. And those are the ordinances that we are introducing this evening, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I make a motion to approve all.
Second.
So we have a first from Mayor Pagan and a second from Councilwoman Goldberg. A yes to introduction. Councilman Schwartz.
Yes to introduction.
Councilwoman Belcher.
Okay, yes to the introduction with exception of 11-2024. I vote no for.
11-2024. Was that a no or abstain? I'm sorry. And we have Councilwoman Goldberg,
Yes to both.
Councilwoman Organ,
Yes to all.
Deputy Mayor G,
Yes, all.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
Ordinances introduced. We are seeing all of them again on June 18th.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I make a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. The
Aye.
ayes have it. Thank you, everyone, once again for joining us tonight. We hope you get home safely.
And yes, for those that are still listening, June 18th is indeed Township Manager Dean Kaczynski's last council meeting. For those listening back home,
I think we need a. There's a better chance that Tom's staying. He doesn't want to hear that.
Oh, man, that's a positive.